Chapter 61. Who is it? Achilles shouted and instantly condensed a cross spear and stabbed backward. Atalanta also drew her bow and aimed at Wyrm, who was behind Achilles. Sorry, I came here without telling you. I hope I didn't scare you. Wyrm held the spear that Achilles stabbed with one hand and raised the other hand as if he was waving. You are saber on our side? After all, Fengshiro had previously informed the two through the contract that there would be a saber coming to them. As for why he said it as if there were other red sabers, Achilles and Atalanta didn't care anymore. Well, it's the first time we met. I'm Sodric, summoning with the saber profession. I'm Atalanta, summoning with the archer profession. I'm Achilles, summoning with the rider profession. I didn't expect you to be saber. I thought you were assassin, Achilles said with some pride. So, what's the situation now? Wyrm didn't care and asked the two. As you can see, Berserker is still crazy, Achilles said. I remember that Berserker's real name is Spartacus, worthy of the famous rebel. Looking at the crazy appearance, Wyrm couldn't help but sigh. By the way, have you seen your master? Achilles ignored Wyrm and asked Atalanta. No, I've only seen Semiramis and his master the priest. Me too. The circuits are connected, and the order has been issued, but I don't see the person. This is considered abnormal. Achilles looked at his hand and felt the connection of the magic circuits and said so. It makes sense that the magician is hiding, but it makes people feel that he is timid, Atalanta said indifferently. Saber, where is your master? Achilles asked. My master didn't move with the other masters. We moved alone, so there wasn't any abnormal situation like yours. My master, on the other hand, looks like a fiend, but surprisingly he's not a bad guy. Wyrm waved his hand. Is that so? Then the three of them didn't say anything. After a while, after Spartacus defeated these blocking puppets, a black servant appeared in front of them. That doesn't seem to be a lancer. Is it a rider? Both of our riders like close combat. Wyrm looked at Achilles, who condensed a cross spear. Of course, I prefer to carry a spear myself than riding a chariot on the battlefield, Achilles said with a smile. That's a pity. I don't like war. Wyrm said. Here. Atalanta interrupted the conversation between the two. The black rider raised his spear and seemed to have released his real name. It passed through Spartacus' leg, and Spartacus' leg was forcibly spiritualized. Immediately afterward, the black rider's master and servant came over, led by a green-haired middle-aged man riding a horse. Is that Vlad III? Wyrm said lightly. This was what Wyrm learned from the exchange of intelligence between Liu Jiejie and Yen Fengshiro. Ah, it should be right, Atalanta said. The black rider raised his hand, and a large amount of enchanted soil wrapped around Spartacus, and then several spikes penetrated Spartacus. At this point, the Red Rider's berserker was captured by the Black Rider. It seemed that the other side didn't have the intention to attack together. They only sent two servants who hadn't fought before to attack Wyrm's position. One for each of us, Rider. Wyrm took out the meteor silver from the ripple and used magic to manifest the silver armor, and said to Achilles, Well, really they only sent two servants, they really don't put me in their eyes, Achilles sneered. Then I'll cover you from the rear, Atalanta said. Well, I'll leave it to you, Archer. It can't be helped, big sister. With that, Wyrm and Achilles walked to the tree in front of them and looked at the Black Rider's servants. Is it Saber and Berserker? Achilles said. One of them was a silver-haired man wearing black and silver armor and holding a long sword. The other was a pink-haired girl wearing a wedding dress and holding a hammer. Achilles just wanted to say something, but Wyrm suddenly rushed forward and rushed to the Black Rider's saber, swordsman. Hey, you can't be like this, that's the opponent I want. Achilles complained. Wyrm didn't know if he heard it or not, but at this moment, he had already started a hand-to-hand battle with the Black Rider's saber, swordsman. Maybe because of Wyrm's fierce attack, the Black Rider's saber had been retreating. What's wrong, Black Rider? Is this all you can do? The Black Rider didn't speak, but he kept waving his sword. This feeling. Is this a special attack? When Wyrm fought with the Black Rider, he felt that the other side had a sense of restraint. Wuming quickly hit the Black Rider's saber swordsman back a distance. Then an arrow penetrated the atmosphere and hit the Black Rider's body, nailing it to the big tree behind him. It was an arrow shot by the Red Rider's archer. Oh! Hearing the sound, Wuming looked at Achilles and found that he was injured by the Black Rider. Achilles was a hero in the Trojan War, and had many noble phantoms. Because Achilles was burned by the heavenly fire after he was born, soaked in the river Styx, he obtained an immortal body. Therefore, if you want to hurt him, you must have divinity or god-killing weapons. From this point of view, the Black Rider's archer was a follower related to God. The Black Rider's berserker, went to fight against Atlanta. When Wuming looked at the Black Rider's saber again, he raised the big sword in his hand, as if he was going to release his noble phantoms. The big sword began to emit light. It looks like a special attack against the dragon's noble phantoms. Wuming felt a sense of threat from it, although it was not big. Is your master in such a hurry to let you release your noble phantoms? Then come on. Although the other party was attacking the dragon's noble phantoms, Wuming's root dragon was not a simple dragon, so the noble phantoms that attacked the dragon's noble phantoms did not have much effect on Wuming. However, Wuming did not dare to exaggerate. He posed and prepared to release his noble phantoms. Just when Wuming thought that the other party was going to release his noble phantoms, the other party suddenly knelt on the ground like a broken string, and the light of his noble phantoms disappeared. Then, the Black Rider's saber spiritualized and left. Is there an internal conflict? It was obvious that the other party was interrupted by another command spell. There was no doubt that there were internal disagreements. After noticing that Atlanta had also retreated, Wuming knew that this time's test was almost over. Ignoring Achilles, who was declaring war with the Black Rider, Wuming also disappeared in his spiritual form. This was because the detection magic he set up had found the person Wuming was looking for. On the way Wuming was looking for Jean, on the other side of the forest, the Black Rider who had left early was leading a brown-haired, red-eyed android out of the forest. Jean, on the other hand, came to the place where the Red and Black Riders were fighting and began to investigate. At this moment, a revelation came. Cedric. Jean recalled the person who appeared in the scene just now in surprise. It was obvious that this was her childhood sweetheart, Cedric. Jean put down the puppet fragment in her hand and began to run on the other side of the forest. Chapter 62. On Wuming's side, as if they were discovered, the surrounding soil gathered and formed golems, surrounding the Black Rider and the android, including Wuming. Really, I shouldn't have followed you guys. AI. Red Saber. Why are you here? Are you here to help us? The rider from the black team naturally voiced his doubts. Wuming didn't know what to say. He just waved his sword gently. The dexterous sword energy destroyed the golems surrounding the three people. Wuming turned to look at the Black Rider and the android. He saw the hope of survival in the eyes of the android. Wuming smiled. For this kind of guy who resisted fate, Wuming didn't hate Wuming. Wuming reached out, opened the ripple, and took out a bag from it. This was not an infinite backpack, just an ordinary bag. Wuming had to admit the advantages of game items. The collision damage of the outside world would not affect the things in the bag in the slightest. It would only reduce the durability. If the durability became 0, the bag would disappear. After filling more than a dozen bottles of red potions, Wuming threw the bag and a magic scroll to the Black Rider. After a moment of confusion, the Black Rider caught the bag and scroll. What is this? He asked. There is a potion in the bag to heal this android. The scroll is a magic that can temporarily block the perception of the command curse. No, it's a magic item. Take this android and leave quickly. A servant is coming. Wuming said lightly. Oh, you are a good man. My name is Astolfo. What about you? Wuming said in his heart. No wonder. Astolfo, one of the 12 warriors of Charlemagne, was a rational person. He looked at the other party's outfit. The upper body was okay, a light night outfit, a fluffy cloak, but the lower body was a short skirt, suspenders and long night boots. As expected of a rational person. I'm an enemy servant. Is it okay for you to tell me your real name? Wuming joked. As if he just realized something, The servant named Astolfo smiled nervously and awkwardly. My real name is Cedric, a French general. Just call me that for now. Wuming looked at Astolfo helplessly. Not bad, don't you think? Astolfo looked at the androids. The androids didn't come back to their senses. After all, if they didn't hear it wrong, the servant in front of them gave Astolfo a potion to heal him. Ah yes, the android said tiredly. At this moment, a pot-bellied middle-aged man with a black saber caught up from behind. Stop! The middle-aged man shouted. Then he lowered his head and panted heavily with his hands on his knees. Damn it! Why did you send me to do this kind of task? Gold didn't realize Wuming's existence. It wasn't until he saw his servant holding a sword and looking ahead vigilantly that he noticed Wuming's existence. Red servant, why are you here? This Gold seemed to be frightened, and he quickly ordered his servant. Quick, Siegfried, take him down. It could be seen that the master's spirit has been greatly stimulated, and he directly exposed his servant's real name. Is that so, Siegfried? No wonder I have a bad feeling. I'm Cedric, the other saber of the red team. Nice to meet you. The bad feeling that Wuming said was the effect of the dragon's special attack. After all, Wuming had the dragon attribute, coupled with Cedric's skill, Magic Dragon EX. It was inevitable that he would feel uncomfortable facing Siegfried. What? Another saber? But the one from before is also saber. Why do you have two sabers? Gold exclaimed. Wuming knew that Gold was talking about Mordred, but he didn't say anything and said to Gold. Don't worry, after tonight, I won't participate in the battle between the red team and the black team. I'm an extra servant summoned by the red team, so let me fight with you for the time being. In that case, we'll go first. Bye, Astolfo said and began to run to the other side with the cyborgs. What? No, wait. Wuming waved his sword in front of Gold, which suddenly scared him. Just stay there obediently. Although I won't attack the masters, I hope that you'll stay there obediently. Damn it. In that case, there's no need to worry. Siegfried, go. He yelled hysterically. Siegfried flew forward, holding his sword, and slashed at Wuming. Clang. Wuming took out his meteor silver and blocked Siegfried's demon sword. The same silver-white sword, a holy sword and a demon sword, constantly collided with each other like a hurricane. That caused Gold to be sent flying. His head hit a tree, and he fainted. Because of the presence of the master, Siegfried didn't fight too much with Wuming, and he paid attention to stay away from the master. Although Wuming wouldn't take the initiative to attack other masters, he didn't care about that. Because Siegfried couldn't go all out, but because Siegfried had the attribute of the dragon's special attack, the two were tied for the time being. With a feint, Wuming and Siegfried moved away and stood facing each other. You're really like a machine. This sentence made Siegfried's expression waver. The reason why Wuming compared Siegfried to a machine was not because Siegfried didn't know how to think, but because Wuming could see that Siegfried didn't have any desires. Coupled with the story of Siegfried in the Nibelungen route, Wuming said that Siegfried was like a machine. You're a hero. Don't you have anything you want to do? Even if you're a machine, you should have a wish. Wuming held his sword with one hand and put the other hand on his waist. Siegfried didn't speak, because he didn't know what he wanted to do. Just then, Astolfo came back with the android he took away. Not good. Cedric. He's dying, what should we do? Astolfo held the android who was constantly coughing up blood and had fainted, and asked Wuming anxiously, Are you an idiot? Didn't I give you the potion to treat him? Forget it, let me take a look. With that, Wuming walked towards the two. As he walked, Wuming glanced at Siegfried. Think about it. What do you really want to do? What I want to do, my wish, is to make my own decision to do something. Siegfried muttered. Wuming took out a bottle of potion from the golden ripples and poured it all into the android's mouth. The android's body instantly emitted a green light. It seems that the potion is effective, but it only treats the symptoms and not the root cause. Wuming touched his chin. But this was only temporary. This android had a defect in his body, which caused the blood vessels in his body to rupture and bleed. The potion only temporarily treated the injuries in his body. What do you mean, Cedric? Astolfo asked. It means that he won't live long, and it's very likely that he will face the crisis of death every day. After all, this is the racial defect of the androids. The one who caused the injury to the android was himself. This was the racial defect of the androids, which made them unable to survive outside the incubator. After all, the healing potion couldn't eliminate the racial defect. Then what can you do? Astolfo looked at Wuming with tears in his eyes. Wuming turned his head away helplessly. Unless I change his race, I can't do anything about it. If only I was summoned as a caster. If Wuming was summoned as a caster, he could use the uninscribed book and the staff of Anzi Wyrm. Although Wuming could also use the uninscribed book as a saber, he couldn't use high-level magic because of his rank. It was just like in the game Yggdrasil. There was a sorcerer who used Perfect Warrior to equip the sorcerer's equipment, but as a result he couldn't use the sorcerer's skills and items. Wuming's items were all game items. In addition to the racial conversion items, there were healing potions in the game for injuries, detoxification items for poisons, and holy items for curses, but many of those items couldn't be used by his current rank. Apart from those items, Wuming didn't have any items to remedy racial defects. After all, racial defects were common in the game, and customer service wouldn't specifically prepare items to overcome racial defects for a certain race. Just like Satya's vampire race, Satya had all the weaknesses of vampires, but those weaknesses were all weakened or protected by item effects, and they couldn't be eliminated completely. Although there were androids in Nasarek, the androids in the game had no defects. In this regard, Wuming couldn't do anything about it. You can try the power of the Holy Grail, or ask its creator. I think if it's the one who made it, there should be a way to prolong its life. At that moment Joan of Arc, who Wuming was looking for, came here. Chapter 63. Jean stood on a stone and watched all of this. After seeing Wuming, Jean said in a trembling voice, "Cedric, is it really you?" "Yo Jean," Wuming waved at Jean and smiled. A gust of wind blew, and Jean flew over and hugged Wuming tightly. "Cedric, Jean buried her head in Wuming's arms, crying, wanting to say something, but she didn't know what to say. Wuming also hugged Jean tightly. At this moment no one spoke. After a while, Astolfo raised his hand and said, Don't hug him, he's dying." Hearing this, Wuming and Jean hurriedly separated. Jean's face was red, and she turned her head away in embarrassment. Wuming looked at Astolfo fiercely, but Wuming also knew the severity of the situation, and didn't mean to blame Astolfo. "I have a way to save him." At this moment, Siegfried spoke. "You have a way?" As far as Wuming knew, Siegfried didn't have any life-saving items in Song of the Nibelungen, so Wuming asked. Yes, I have a way." With that said, Siegfried put his hand in front of himself. Wuming and others knew what Siegfried was going to do at this moment, and they didn't say anything. Only Jean said, "Please wait a minute." "You can't, Siegfried." With Jean's character and her identity as the supervisor of the Holy Grail War, she won't let Siegfried choose this path. Joan of Arc sincerely cared about the masters and servants of the Holy Grail War. But Siegfried didn't want to listen to Jean. He inserted his hand into his abdomen above his abdomen, avoided the ribs, and took out his heart. "This is my wish to help him, with my own will." Siegfried took his heart, placed it on the android's chest, and pushed it into his body. When the heart entered the body, it was like an object entering the water surface, causing ripples. "Please, Cedric." Siegfried disappeared like a hero. Soon, the android with Siegfried's heart woke up. This is... His red eyes were full of confusion, and he looked at Wuming, Jean, and Astolfo with confused eyes. "You are saved. Siegfried gave you his heart, and now your body has become a normal person." After hearing this sentence, he touched his chest uncertainly, then said very slowly, I live?" "Yes, now you just need to give yourself a name. I will take care of the rest for you." "Fong Xian," Wuming said sincerely to him. Later, Siegfried left Siegfried's heart, Siegfried, and the android with Siegfried left leaving the unconscious Gfried. Soon someone found the unconscious Gfried and took him away. Tulifas, Myrenia Citadel. There were many figures gathered in the hall, some were servants and some were masters. Vlad III, who had met Wuming once, was sitting on the throne, and next to him stood the team leader of Yugdamarinia, Danik Priestone Yugdamarinia. This was a young man who looked like he was in his 20s or 30s, but in fact he had lived for nearly 100 years. He had purple pupils and long dark green hair tied into a ponytail with a black hairband. He was wearing a black and white uniform of the Yugdamarinia race and a white cloak. He looked at Fried, who was devastated, and said, "So, what the hell is going on, Fried Majik Yugdamarinia? Why did Saber disappear?" I don't know. I was in a coma. Why did this happen?" Fried seemed to be devastated, and he couldn't speak properly. At this time, Blackcaster said, "I extracted a trace of the image from the magic crystals on the scene." "Can you play it, Avisprin?" Vlad 3 asked. "Yes." A voice without a trace of emotion came from under Avisprin's mask. Through the magic projection, everyone saw an incomplete picture, but they already knew the specific reason for Saber's disappearance. "I didn't expect Saber to choose to give up her life for the sake of that android," Black Berserker Frankenstein's master, Kels Fulvig Yugdamarinia, said. "In short, the current situation is very unfavorable for us. Although we captured the Red Berserker, we lost Saber, our strongest combat power, Assassin is out of control, and Rider has defected. The Red team may also know about our situation," Avisprin said. "So, how about using the command spell to recall Rider?" Kels asked. "It's useless. Rider's magical power is under the bonus of Noble Phantasm. Even if we use the command spell, there will be 2 of them. It's not worth it at all," Black Rider's master, Selenikai Esker Yugdamarinia, said. "I will personally look for Rider. Please rest assured, Patriarch." "Okay. Fried, do you have any information about the 2 sabers of the Red team?" Titanic asked. He didn't have much hope, he just wanted to ask. The result was beyond his expectations. "Yes, there is information. There are 2 red sabers, and the servant who fought against Ziegfeld before is called Sodlek. Oh, the famous French general, the hero of the nation." Vlad 3 was obviously interested in Sodlek, who was also a hero of the nation. And he also said, "He is an additional servant summoned, and he said that after tonight, he will no longer be our enemy." Fried said nervously, "What does that mean?" Kels wondered. "It seems that Sodlek's identity is a bit special, but in any case, we have to be prepared." Just like that, in the first night of the short confrontation, the black and red sides ended with both sides suffering losses. On the other side, Wuming Jin and Astolfo brought the android named Ziegfeld to a warm-hearted farmer's house. Then Astolfo, "I'll leave Ziegfeld to you." "Okay, leave it to me." Astolfo raised his hand and smiled happily. "Remember to use the scroll I gave you. It can temporarily block the connection between you and your master, but remember not to get close to your master, or you will be discovered." Yes. Then Wuming looked at Ziegfeld again. "Ziegfeld, now is the time for you to think about how to live in the future. After all, you already have the lifespan of a normal person." "I don't know." Ziegfeld shook his head. He, who was born as a magic supply, didn't know what to do at the moment, he just wanted to live. "Then think about it. No matter what you do, don't go against your heart. Follow the guidance of your heart." "Goodbye, Ziegfeld, Astolfo." After that, Wuming turned and looked at Jean. The 2 smiled and left side by side. Chapter 64. Wuming and Jean walked one after the other on the ground illuminated by the moonlight. Logically speaking, with their intimate relationship, they should be able to talk about everything. However, neither of them spoke at the moment. They just walked quietly and enjoyed a moment of peace. "Sodric, what is your wish to participate in the Holy Grail War?" After a moment of silence, Jean took the lead to speak. "Don't you know me, Jean? I don't have any wish." Wuming turned around and smiled at Jean. "I came to the Holy Grail War to find you." "Is that so?" Jean was a little overwhelmed at the moment. Although she was a perfect saintess in front of others, whenever she was alone with her childhood sweetheart, she would become the village girl she was when she was a child. Looking at the confused Jean, Wuming smiled and touched her face. I still remember what you said before we were burned to death. Jean froze for a moment, then remembered something. Her cheeks that were touched by Wuming became flushed. No. Wuming looked at Jean, who was already incoherent, smiled, took her hand, and began to walk forward. While walking, he said, "Well, I know you want to give everything to the Lord now." No that. I don't mean to go back on my words. Jean lowered her voice. If Wuming didn't listen carefully, he wouldn't have heard it. "So, when you fulfill your promise to me, then you can give your all to the Lord." Jean was a little overwhelmed. She promised Wuming to marry her before, but now both of them have become servants, so marriage is impossible. And Wuming asked to fulfill his promise before letting her go. That is to say, yes, I decided to hold your hand all the time and not let go. Although Wuming was a scumbag when he said that. Thinking about Artoria, Gilgamesh, and Enkidu in the hands of Wuming's original body, well, Maeve didn't count. Wuming only treated her as a little sister. Yes, she was his younger sister. Actually, Gilgamesh and Enkidu could be considered daughters, and only Artoria could be counted as one. However, because Artoria had become a queen, she could no longer be with Wuming. In that case, he wasn't really a scumbag. Wuming didn't notice that Jean's gaze on him had changed. "Why do I feel like you were a scumbag just now?" Alas! The adorable saintess actually called him a scum. Was there a mistake? How could that be? It's wrong to think that way. Jean, by the way, you were summoned by the Holy Grail as a ruler. Is there anything unusual? Wuming laughed and changed the topic. Well, I originally thought that you were the anomaly this time, but after meeting you, I found that the anomaly hasn't been solved yet. There are other anomalies in this Holy Grail war. Jean replied seriously. If there really is an abnormality, then I think the Red Party Master is an abnormality. My master and I have met a priest before. He is the supervisor of this Holy Grail war and the Red Party Master. However, whether it is me, my master, or Mordred, we all feel that there is something wrong with that priest. Is that so, Soderlek? Where is your master now? I want to ask in person. Jean thought for a while, and asked Wuming. He is not in Tulifas now. He was entrusted by the Magic Association to deal with the recent serial killings. Wuming shook his head. If that's the case, then okay. He will be back in a few days. For now, go on a date with me, Jean. Alas! Early the next morning, Wuming took Jean, who had changed into casual clothes, to walk around the town. Because Jean was in the form of a physical body, Jean could not spiritualize, and had the functions of a normal person, such as eating and sleeping. If Jean did not eat and sleep, it would make her tired, so Wuming forced Jean, whose face was red, to stay in a hotel for the night. Of course, they booked 2 rooms. In terms of money, Wuming took out a few gold coins and exchanged them for some money. Wuming and Jean walked on the street, and strolled around casually. Feeling Jean's resentful eyes, Wuming smiled. Really, Soderlek, you're making fun of me again. Well, you think too much. Stare dash. Okay, I'll treat you to something to eat. Okay, then I'll forgive you. As expected, Jean is still Jean, she hasn't changed at all. Did you say something? Why would I? Let's go, the taste of this shop is not bad. I've been here with my master before. Then I'll try the food you recommended, Soderlek. Jean smiled sweetly at Wuming, then turned and walked into the shop. Wuming froze for a moment, then recovered. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Really, I was fooled by you, Jean. Wuming and Jean had a very pleasant breakfast. During this process, Wuming and Jean did not realize that the two of them seemed to have returned to the age of 16, before they joined the army. The two of them were immersed in this happy time. But now it was the time of the Holy Grail War. After a while, Wuming received a message from Leo. General, are you in Tulifas now? Yes, what's wrong, Master? The serial killings were done by Black Assassin. We couldn't get rid of him. It seems to be some kind of skill or noble artifact. Saber and I can't remember any information about Black Assassin. We only know that he's Jack the Rifleman. I see, Fog Knight's man killer fiend. Then I can understand why you can't remember the information. Then Wu Ming also had a short confrontation with Black's archer and his master. Saber and Black Archer were both injured. The other side retreated. What about Mordred? She's fine, right? After all, Wu Ming and Mordred had some relationship. It's not a big deal. I've already healed Saber. Also, Father Shiro knows that I'm going to launch an attack on Black tonight. We might be late. If possible, help Red. Sorry, Master. I've already found the person I'm looking for. I've decided to stay neutral. Sigh. So sudden. Well, I won't force you. I'll rush back as soon as possible. Then you can enjoy your peaceful days in the modern world. Ha ha ha, Master. You're so gentle, but don't worry. I'll try my best not to interfere in the war between Black and Red. Forget it, do as you please, that's it. Lion Jieli disconnected the communication with Wu Ming. Sodric, are you going to give up on the Holy Grail? Jean asked worriedly. My goal has been achieved, plus I was summoned by cheating. As the ruler, you definitely won't allow me to participate in the Holy Grail war anymore, right? That's true. Looking at Jean's worried expression, Wu Ming took Jean's hand. Let's not worry about that for now. They'll only fight at night anyway. You can just be a village girl and go on a date with me during the day. Wait. Just like that, Wu Ming and Jean had a pleasant date. And on the other side, after dinner, Sieg sat in the courtyard in a daze. Yo, what are you thinking about, Sieg? Astolfo jumped out from behind Sieg. Hey, can I sit next to you? Astolfo, who had already sat down, asked. You've already sat down, Sieg said, somewhat at a loss. So, what are you worried about? Astolfo smiled awkwardly. I'm thinking about what Sodric said to me. Sieg withdrew his gaze from Astolfo and continued to stare blankly. That sentence, don't go against your heart. Follow the direction your heart points to, Astolfo said with his finger on his cheek. As expected of the general who saved France, then Astolfo smiled sweetly at Sieg. Yes, he's a hero. So, what are you thinking, Sieg? Hearing this, Sieg looked at Astolfo, then touched his chest, feeling the beating of his heart. Chapter 65. I want to save my compatriots, those androids, Sieg said seriously. Then let's go. Astolfo smiled and pulled Sieg up. Hey, but you will be discovered by your master. Sieg didn't want Astolfo to return to his master's side, because Astolfo had been complaining about how bad his master was and how perverted he was. It's okay, and I'm still a servant of the black side. Let's go and observe when the red side and the black side start fighting. When the time comes, I'll go and support the black side, and you can go and save your compatriots. What do you think? Sieg looked at Astolfo's smile and couldn't help but smile. Yes. Ryder, I'll leave it to you. Oh, leave it to me. In this way, as if fate was playing tricks on them, when the two saw a huge sky castle flying to the grassland in front of Damarinia's fortress, they decided that the red side and the black side would fight, and they took action. And Wu Ming accompanied Joan of Arc to wait for the beginning of the war. Wu Ming and Joan of Arc stood on the side of the grassland, looking at the huge fortress floating in the air. That's the Sky Garden? Joan of Arc's skill real name break played a role, and she was surprised to shout out the real name of the noble phantasm. This is really an ill-fated relationship, Wu Ming said. Although it was not from the same period, it was a Babylonian building after all, and Wu Ming couldn't help but feel a little emotional. The red side's master must be there. Let's find a way to enter. Joan of Arc was about to start moving. Wait, Rena. Wu Ming reached out and pulled Joan of Arc's hair braid. Ah! Joan of Arc screamed and knelt on the ground. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Wu Ming looked at Joan of Arc, who was kneeling on the ground with tears in her eyes, and quickly apologized and stretched out his hand to help Joan of Arc up. Really, Wu Ming, you are still so rough, can't you be gentle? Joan of Arc grabbed Wu Ming's hand and stood up. Cough. Do you have a way to get to the space garden? Wu Ming quickly changed the topic. Jean blushed and stopped talking. She was too anxious just now. She didn't even think about how to enter the sky garden in the sky. It's still the same as before. Wu Ming smiled helplessly and took out a wing-shaped pendant from the golden ripples. Here, take this. Wu Ming reached out and handed it to Joan of Arc. After Jean took it, she checked the pendant's effect with true name detection. It can actually allow people to gain the ability to fly, and all they need to do is chant the incantation. Even ordinary people can use it. Jean couldn't believe it. After all, no matter how convenient this kind of magic item was, it would not be separated from magic power. This item could be used by ordinary people without magic power. How could Jean not be surprised? After all, this was a game. There would definitely be items that didn't cost anything. For example, this pendant that allowed players to fly in the game. That was a high-level item that President Anziwagong got at a high price. It didn't cost any magic power or EXP to use. Well, this is one of the treasures that the Mystic Dragon was guarding after I defeated him. Wu Ming used his suppression power to create an interface for him. What about you, won't you go with me? Jean asked. Well, because there is only one, I won't go. That was the truth. There was only one pendant. Although Wu Ming could use high-level item creation to create another one, Wu Ming still couldn't use that skill because of the restriction of his class. It seems that caster is more suitable for me, Wu Ming thought. Well, then I'll go by myself. You be careful. Also, don't participate in the battle between the two sides, understand? Jean said to Wu Ming quite seriously. Yes. My saintess, this one understands, Wu Ming playfully replied to Joan of Arc. Really, Jean's cheeks blushed, and she didn't care about Wu Ming anymore. Wearing the pendant, she said the spell fly, that Wu Ming told her, and her body floated. Wow, I'm really flying. After a short adaptation, Jean said to Wu Ming, then I'll go first. Okay. They didn't talk too much because they trusted each other. After watching Jean fly away, Wu Ming said rather bored. So, what should I do now? Watch the battle. With that thought in mind, Wu Ming found a big stone and sat down. Watching the two sides began to march. The soldiers of the red side were the dragon teeth that fell from the sky garden. Except for the head that looked like a broken skull, it was no different from Nazarik's skeleton soldiers. Looking at the black side, as Wu Ming expected, it was a large group of androids and golems. Looking at the androids, Wu Ming thought of Sieg again. I don't know how Sieg and Astolfo are doing, but with Sieg's temperament, he might return to Malnia City to save his compatriots. Speaking of Sieg, Wu Ming couldn't help but think of Sieg Fei. Ah, I didn't expect the Dragon Slayer hero Sieg Fei to be such a person. Speaking of which, when I fought with Sieg Fei, I always felt uncomfortable. It felt like I was fighting with my natural enemy. Is it because Sieg Fei is a Dragon Slayer? Wu Ming couldn't help but think of when he fought with Sieg Fei. There was always a special force that passed to Wu Ming. Although it didn't affect Wu Ming much, he still felt uncomfortable. At that moment, a large number of ripples appeared in front of the sky garden, and countless arrows were shot out from it, directly hitting the androids and golems. Is that the red side archer's noble phantasm? Although the damage of each arrow is not high, it's hard to say if it's stacked. Then, a large number of green electric currents hit the arrow formation and scattered it. Is it another noble phantasm? Immediately afterward, a large number of iron pillars pierced the corresponding number of Dragonfang soldiers. That's Vlad III's noble phantasm, right? As expected of the Impaler Duke. Then, Wu Ming found that the red side Lancer and Vlad III were fighting. One moment the iron pillars pierced, the next moment the flames danced. Those two were fighting very well. Sure enough, for these heroes, I'm still too inexperienced. Wu Ming couldn't help but think of his master, Skaha. Although I didn't fall behind the skills taught by my master, I don't have what a hero should have. It couldn't be helped. Wu Ming, as the root dragon, was born extraordinary. Before the dragon transformation, his skin could be said to be indestructible because of the dragon scales, and after the dragon transformation he could resist EX-level noble phantasms. He also had almost unlimited mana. In any case, Silent Wonder had never run out of mana. In fact, he had never even used up 1/3 of his mana. The racial characteristic of time and space basically had no effect on Wu Ming, and he could freely travel through time and space tunnels. Furthermore, he had the ability to sublimate a relic. Imagine if Wu Ming could sublimate hundreds or thousands of grade A offensive relic and release his real name at the same time. Since he had sufficient mana, the scene would be inhumane. That was the power of Wu Ming's root dragon when it was still underage. If it was an adult root dragon, it would be unimaginable. At that moment, Wu Ming saw Astolfo riding an eagle on the battlefield. Seeing that, he said something to Vlad III, who had just separated from the Red Lancer. Astolfo flew toward the sky garden with a happy look on his face. Could it be? Sieg really came back to save those androids? Wu Ming couldn't help but think. Chapter 66. Sieg and Astolfo began to take action after seeing the battle between the two sides. Rider, be sure to come back safely. Sieg looked at Astolfo and said. Astolfo nodded heavily, and then rode the eagle hidden in space. Hippogriff. With the cry of an eagle, a creature with the upper body of a griffin and the lower body of a horse flew over. Astolfo leaped up and landed on the eagle's back. Then I'll go first, Astolfo waved his hand, and the eagle flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Sieg, on the other hand, went to Malnia Fortress to rescue his compatriots. After seeing Astolfo, Wu Ming realized that Sieg might also go to Malnia Fortress, so he also got up and went. As for what Joan of Arc said about not doing anything to hinder the Holy Grail War, he would do it anyway. Anyway, Joan of Arc would definitely not punish him. Wu Ming thought so and rushed to Malnia Fortress. When he arrived at the gate of the fortress, Wu Ming saw Sieg treating the injured androids. It seemed that the androids were persuaded by Sieg, and were constantly treating their companions. Wu Ming stepped forward without hesitation and said, "Yo, Sieg." Sieg heard someone calling him and looked back. "Mr. Solderlake, why are you here?" The rest of the androids picked up their weapons and pointed at Wu Ming. Only then did Sieg remember that Wu Ming was still a Red Team follower. Naturally, his purpose for coming to Black Fortress was different. "Don't worry, I have already left the Holy Grail War, and I won't attack you. Put down your weapons, and even if I want to attack, you can't resist at all." After saying that, Wu Ming also looked at Sieg, asking him to explain. "Everyone, put down your weapons first. Mr. Solderlake has helped me before, and I believe that he will not lie to us." After thinking for a while, the androids put down their weapons. "When I saw Astolfo on the battlefield, I guessed that you would definitely come to rescue your companions. Have you thought about it?" "Yes, thank you very much for what Mr. Solderlake said to me. I have decided to save my companions and give them freedom," Sieg said with a firm look. "Then let's go. In order to prevent the black followers from obstructing us, I will accompany you." After saying that, he walked into Malnia Fortress from the side door. Yeah, I'll leave it to you." After that, Sieg and the androids followed Wu Ming in. However, speaking of which, is it really a good idea for me to walk into the enemy's base so openly? Wu Ming thought. After Jean wore the pendant Wu Ming gave her, she flew into the sky and went straight to the sky garden. However, during this process, a large number of dragon teeth soldiers with skeletal wings kept attacking Jean. Bang! Joan of Arc waved the unspread holy flag to disperse the last dragon tooth soldier nearby. Looking at the endless stream of dragon fang soldiers flying over, Jean couldn't help but be speechless. So many dragon teeth soldiers can't get through. Just when Jean was distressed, a revelation came. She saw the Red Master, a man in a priest's outfit, fighting with the Black Berserker in the nearby forest, and standing next to him was a man in a British green and brown literary costume. That's Red Team's Master and Caster. After seeing the revelation, Jean did not hesitate to turn and fly in the direction of the forest. Assassin Semiramis, who was controlling the fortress in the Sky Garden, saw that Jean did not hesitate to run in the direction of her master, and immediately contacted the master who was fighting with the Red Berserker in the forest. "Master, the ruler really did not hesitate to rush to your position." "Understood. Retreat, Caster," Yenfeng Shiro said without turning his head. Red Caster Shakespeare said with a regretful look. "Now is the time to be excited. Do you really want to retreat?" Although Caster said so, he never had the slightest intention to fight. He just kept writing things, including when Yenfeng Shiro was fighting. "Yes, retreat immediately." "Yes." Caster immediately disappeared in spirit form. Yenfeng Shiro took out 4 black keys and threw them in front of the red berserker Frankenstein. The black keys instantly became bigger, blocking Frankenstein's advance, leaving only Frankenstein's roar. After making sure that the red berserker couldn't catch up, Yenfeng Shiro ran back. At that moment, Jean was still far away from the forest. Just as Semiramis breathed a sigh of relief, she discovered the servant who came to attack the sky garden. "Oh, there is a horse that can fly." Semiramis sighed as he looked at the eagle that Astolfo was riding. But in fact, was it really good to call the eagle a horse? Immediately afterward, those dragon-teeth soldiers with wings changed direction and went to attack the black rider Astolfo. "Whoa, what are these things so disgusting?" Astolfo, who was riding the eagle, shouted. Because Astolfo didn't want to do anything, he kept dodging the dragon-teeth soldiers and attacked from time to time. Then he activated his noble phantasm, the declaration of destruction, and defeated all the dragon-teeth soldiers. What? Semiramis was surprised. But she didn't panic. After all, her sky garden had more than one way to attack. Just when she wanted to activate her magic cannon, a meteor-like beam of light emerged from Myrenia's fortress, and the stars in the sky contributed their own light and gathered there. Then she found out that the black rider hurriedly flew there. At this moment, whether it was the black lancer Vlad III and the red lancer Karna who were fighting, the black berserker Frankenstein who was caught up in the forest because of the red caster's noble phantasm, the red caster Shakespeare who had retreated back to the sky garden, the lion Jie and the red saber Mordred who were late to the edge of the battlefield, the black archer Sharon and the red rider Achilles who were fighting with each other in another part of the forest, and the red archer Atlanta who was pulling the renegade red berserker Spartacus. All of them had different reactions. The black servant was shocked and quickly retreated to its own fortress, but the red servant did not chase after it. Because of some unknown reason, its body was abnormal, so it did not chase after it. Joan of Arc also came to a halt and looked at the incomparably gorgeous light beam. "That's Sodric's noble phantasm. Whoa. I told you not to disturb the Holy Grail War." At that moment, Jean complained like a child, and then flew there. At that moment, Wuming, the originator of the meteor-like silver-white beam of light, was holding his noble phantasm, X-Silver, or Meteor Silver, facing the black caster and his puppets who came to capture Sieg. "It's really troublesome, I'll blow you away." Black caster Avisprin didn't seem to panic. It should be said that there was nothing that could make him panic, except for his own wish. "If you want to stop me from fulfilling my wish, then try it, Sodric." X-Silver, because of the shout of his real name. The meteor silver that was constantly emitting starlight shone brightly, and as Wuming swung his sword, the attack containing the gathered starlight arrived. Boom. Chapter 67. Previously, when Wuming brought Sieg and a group of androids into the basement to rescue the androids, the black caster Avisprin released the traitorous red berserker Spartacus and retreated after a brief confrontation with the red rider Achilles. On the way back to the magic workshop, he inadvertently discovered the magic of a servant and followed the magic to find him. Then he saw Sieg. Avisprin judged that Sieg's self-consciousness was the core he needed, so he immediately wanted to capture Sieg. Although Wuming said that he would not go against the black side, Wuming agreed to protect Sieg. Therefore, when Avisprin summoned a large number of golems, Wuming directly released his noble artifact, which caused great chaos on the battlefield. After the patriarch of Myrenia, Danica, knew that a servant had broken into his base, he quickly summoned the black side servants who were on the battlefield. It happened that for some reason, the red side servants did not chase after him, but this was a good thing for the black side, so they did not pursue it. At this moment, a large amount of starlight floated in the air. Avisprin was half kneeling on the ground in a sorry state. His clothes were tattered, and the mask he wore was also shattered, revealing his weather-beaten face as he gasped for breath. Because Wuming could suppress the power, Sieg and the androids were fine, and the basement where the androids were used as a magic battery was not affected. Only the ground in front of Avisprin was completely exposed, and the golems were all turned into ashes. "He didn't die after taking one of my noble artifacts. Is it because of the command charm?" I said while holding the meteor silver that still had a little bit of starlight. That's right, just when the light beam hit Avisprin. Avisprin's master used 3 command charms to strengthen Avisprin's magic, so that he could summon more golems and set up a large number of magic barriers. It was not until Avisprin's magic was almost completely exhausted that Avisprin survived. I'm sorry, Sieg. It seems that we can't save your compatriots now, Wuming said apologetically. No, it's okay. Sieg was still immersed in the sea of starlight at this moment, and had not completely recovered. Then hurry up and retreat first. With that, Wuming took out another scroll and threw it to Sieg. This is an invisibility scroll that can temporarily block magic perception. You are a magician, so you should be able to use it. Sieg held the scroll, looking at Wuming and the androids who were saved by Sieg on the battlefield with worry. We won't save our compatriots for the time being, you should retreat first. The female android who seemed to be the leader said to Sieg expressionlessly. Alright, let's hurry up and leave. You'll only drag me down later, Wuming said. Yes, please be careful, Mr. Sodlek. With that, Sieg ran towards the other side of the battlefield. Of Avisprin of you. Of Avi of Avisprin of you of Avisbro and of you. Wuming suddenly rushed forward and swung his sword at Avisprin. Clank! 2 iron stakes blocked Wuming's sword, making a sound of steel colliding. Wuming jumped back, and a large number of iron stakes emerged from the ground where he was originally standing. You're here, Vlad III. How dare you, General Soderlek, France's national salvation. While they were talking, Black Archer Sharon, Black Rider Astolfo, who was riding an eagle, and Black Berserker Frankenstein, who was running over, had all arrived. Except for Black Saber, who chose to commit suicide, and Black Assassin, who was out of control, all the black servants had arrived. And their masters had also gathered in a relatively safe place to watch the scene. I'm sorry, Vlad III. Although I said that I'm not your enemy, I have promised Siegfried to protect the androids. I had no choice but to attack Blackcaster. Although it was an apology, Wuming didn't have the slightest intention of self-reflection on his face. Instead, his hand holding the sword was quite eager to fight. I understand you, Sodric. However, it's not right for you to ruin the battle between us and the Red Followers. Well then, sinner who trespassed on my territory, leave your life behind. With Vlad III's order, Berserker Frankenstein, who was the most impatient, took the lead and rushed forward. Frankenstein rushed over, raised his heavy hammer, and smashed it down. Wuming held the meteor silver in one hand to block it, and instantly released his magic to bounce it away. Then he quickly jumped back into the air, avoiding the iron stakes that pierced out of the ground, and swung his sword to cut them off. Then his body moved against gravity to the side, avoiding the arrows that were attacking him. Then he met Berserker Frankenstein, who rushed over again. Vlad III didn't have the idea of a one-on-one fight. He followed behind Frankenstein and raised his gun to stab Wuming. In this way, Wuming dealt with Black Lancer Vlad III and Black Berserker Frankenstein while avoiding or destroying the arrows from the air, and the iron stakes piercing out of the ground. Because of Wuming's supreme skill, several servants couldn't defeat Wuming even if they joined forces. As for Avisprin, he followed Giroshare back to his magic workshop. After all, his master no longer had the command seal, and could no longer impose a compulsory order on him, and his magic was running out. If he didn't think of a way to survive in this world, he wouldn't be able to survive. Are you kidding me? How is this possible? Even 3 servants couldn't take down that French General Sodlek. He shouldn't have such strong martial arts skills. Fiore sat in a wheelchair and covered her mouth in surprise. The servant named Sodric is indeed a bit abnormal, but looking at his ability value, his real name is indeed Sodric. Collins pushed his glasses and said. The master could observe the ability value of his own servant, and naturally he could also observe the ability value of other servants, but there was not much information about the ability value of other servants. While they were discussing, Black Rider's master yelled at his servant, Astolfo. Why don't you go up? Astolfo, show them the power of one of Charlemagne's 12 warriors. Astolfo, who was flying in the air, hesitated and didn't dare to go forward. This is a little bit. Ha ha ha, I'm not that good at fighting. Astolfo laughed. Although Astolfo was one of the 12 warriors of Charlemagne, he was the weakest among them. Moreover, Astolfo had always relied on his noble phantasm to fight. It was especially effective when he was fighting against multiple enemies. Give me your noble artifact, illusionary horse of this world, right now. This is not good. Astolfo smiled awkwardly. Do it, or I will use my command seal. Serenica said fiercely. Sigh, there's no other way. Astolfo prayed that Wyrm would use his noble phantasm. Chapter 68. At that moment, Wyrm made a feint and pulled away from Frankenstein and Vlad III. Vlad III also stopped Frankenstein, who wanted to continue to attack. It seems that your identity is not simple, Sodric, Vlad III said. Being able to withstand the joint attack of 3 servants was not something a French general should have. I just used the identity of Sodric to summon Saber, but the martial arts of other identities have been deeply engraved in my mind. Wyrm swung his sword and put the meteor silver into the golden ripples of Dragonist. It seems that I can't take you down today. Not someone from Sodric. Vlad III didn't seem to be depressed. You are wrong. I am Sodric, there is no doubt about that. It's just that I have another identity. Wyrm smiled. Then he looked at the boundless sky. You have to be careful. You have to know that the Red Side's fortress has the Hanging Garden of kamikaze magic. Hanging Garden? Not good. Vlad III also realized something. At this moment, a gigantic sky fortress appeared in the boundless sky above Mylnia Citadel. It was the Hanging Garden with the ability to block detection. The originally flat ground was broken by the powerful suction of the Hanging Garden, and the Great Holy Grail, which was located in the center of the Hanging Garden, also broke out of the ground. What? One of the Black Side Masters exclaimed in surprise. After all, it was too hard to believe that the Red Side's purpose was to directly take away the Great Holy Grail. Well then you guys go ahead. I'll take my leave first. With that, Wyrm's spiritual form disappeared. The black servants present, Black Lancer Vlad III, Black Archer Sharon, Black Rider Astolfo, and Black Berserker Frankenstein all followed the boulder and entered the Hanging Garden. At that moment Jean, who was resisting the explosion of the Red Berserker Spartacus, met Wyrm, who came out of Mylnia Fortress. Sodric. Jean roared. What? What's wrong, Jihan? Wyrm was shocked. Didn't I tell you not to act on your own? You have now seriously damaged the Holy Grail war between the Black and Red factions. Jean d'Arc, who was Rule, said. Although I don't have your command incantation, the command incantation that belongs to the Red Saber can be used on you. So you'd better stay put. Jean looked at Wyrm until Wyrm surrendered. Yes, I know, my saintess, Wyrm said helplessly. Besides, I was just trying to protect Siegfried. After all, this is the agreement I made with Siegfried, Wyrm said with an embarrassed smile. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You're just looking for fun for yourself and protecting Mr. Sieg, Jean said. Really, you used to be like this too. You always acted on your own. If you didn't act on your own, you wouldn't have been accused of the mystic dragon, Jean said sadly. This was what was recorded in Wyrm's history. The adventurous General Sodric was attracted to the Alps by the legend, and was ambushed by the British Army. In order to win the war between Britain and France, the British Army found a way to release the mystic dragon, who used to be a member of the Knights of the Round Table. With the help of Sodric's wisdom, Sodric barely defeated the mystic dragon. Jean d'Arc also dared to lead her army. Otherwise, the exhausted Sodric would have been captured by the British Army. Wyrm, on the other hand, smiled helplessly. Really, that's because it's convenient for me to use my noble phantasm. The suppression power was given to me in the history. Alright, you stay here for now. I'm going to the Sky Garden to question the Red Faction Master. If I find out that you're still running around, I'll definitely use my command incantation. After that, Jean d'Arc activated the pendant and flew into the air, heading toward the Sky Garden. Wyrm, on the other hand, smiled helplessly and waved his hand. It's good that you stay here. I still have to help Sieg save those androids. Hey, Villo. Wyrm turned his head and saw Jieli and Mordred rushing over in a car that was almost scrapped. As soon as the car stopped, Mordred directly kicked the door and walked out. You're really good. You actually broke into the enemy's base camp alone. Mordred smiled as if she was meeting a good friend. She held Wuming's neck and laughed. This made Jieli confused. After all, Mordred and Wuming did not get along very well before. They were not friendly. Wuming, on the other hand, saw through Jieli's thoughts and said, "In the Knights of the Round Table, Mordred is not liked by the other knights. Only I am willing to talk to Mordred. Of course, our relationship is good. Mordred hates me because of the bloodline problem." "What did you say? You bastard, who has a good relationship with you?" Mordred, like its Sundra, fiercely punched Wuming. "Bloodline?" Wuming pressed down on Mordred's fist and continued to speak to Jieli. "Didn't you notice that Mordred's eyes turn red when she fights? That's because a little of my bloodline is mixed in, causing her eyes to turn red when she fights." Ignoring the noisy Mordred, Jieli asked, "Speaking of which, didn't you not participate in the war between the two sides? Why did you run to the black side's base camp to make a ruckus?" Wuming smiled awkwardly. Then, Wuming told Jieli about his experience after he and Jieli separated. "So that's how it is," Jieli said. "It's all because of you. Master, we didn't make it in time for this war, damn it." Mordred roared at Jieli. Jieli waved his hand helplessly and ignored Mordred. "So, what are you going to do now? The Saintess asked you not to run around anymore, otherwise, she will use the command seal," Jieli asked. "Now the black side should only have one servant caster. I decided to help Sieg rescue those androids first. Then, we will leave first. If the people of the Yugomyrenia family see us, there will be trouble." Jieli was about to leave. However, Mordred tugged on the lion Jieli's clothes and said, "What are you saying, master? Since the other party has entered the Sky Garden, we should also go in." Hey, you can't be serious. That is Assassin's noble phantasm. Is it really okay for us to go in directly? Isn't that good? Let's fight directly. As a king, I will be fine. Mordred laughed. Looking at Mordred, who was spouting nonsense, Wuming laughed. "Really, Mordred, you are still so reckless." Yes, you are too reckless. At least, let's find a place to investigate first." "What is there to investigate? I hate magicians the most, just like Merlin, that bastard. Anyway, let's leave first." "No. Continue to attack the Sky Garden." Looking at the master and servant who were quarreling together, Wuming couldn't help but say, "You guys are really good together." After that, Wuming walked toward Myrinia's fortress. Chapter 69. In the end, it was decided that Leo and Mordred would follow the suction force and enter the Sky Garden. Wuming, on the other hand, came to the basement of the androids that acted as batteries. He began to open the incubators one by one to rescue the androids. After a while, Wuming found that someone had come. When he saw the person, Wuming was a little surprised. "Sieg, why are you back so soon?" Sieg brought some of the androids that he had previously persuaded to the basement. Sigh. "Mr. Sodric, I saw that the black side servants had all entered the Sky Fortress, so I sneaked in with the scroll you gave me. After I found them, I came with them." Okay, I won't say anything more. Take it." After that, Wuming threw a bag to Sieg. It was full of recovery potions. "Give each of the rescued androids a bottle. It can temporarily restore their physical abilities. Let them come and rescue the other androids." Okay. Every time an android was rescued, it was equivalent to having more power. Soon, all the androids were liberated. Wuming said to Sieg, "So Sieg, have you really decided to liberate the androids and let them be free? You, who originally needed orders, will no longer be ordered. What purpose do you have to live for?" Sieg replied with a firm look in his eyes. "Although what you said is indeed the truth, self-awareness should not be needed for us. I don't know if it is the right thing for us to give up our duties, but even if we can't rest in peace in the future, even if there is despair waiting in front of us, we still want to walk our own path. We don't need salvation, we need freedom of choice. So please, Mr. Sodric." Wuming smiled and said, "Ah, I will help you." Then he said to Sieg, "How about this? I will go with you to negotiate with the Black Side Master. After all, they can't leave here for the time being. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sodrick. Sieg and the female androids had a simple negotiation, and asked her to take the basement with the androids, then followed Wu Ming's footsteps. With that, Wu Ming and Sieg walked out of the basement. Speaking of which, you are really courageous. Why didn't Castor come to find you again? He didn't enter the Sky Garden. Sigh. Sieg panicked. Don't worry, I've already heavily injured him. He's either recovering his mana somewhere, or has already disappeared. Soon, Wu Ming and Sieg found the masters of the Black Side gathered together. What? The red team's saber. Why are you here? Wu Ming looked at the surprised expressions of the four masters in front of him and asked. Isn't the master of Black Lancer and Black Caster here? Uncle entered the Sky Garden with the servants. I don't know where Rocher and Castor went. The speaker was a woman in a wheelchair. If I remember correctly, you're the master of Black Archer. Yes, thank you for remembering me. My name is Fiore, and I'm the next leader. Don't call me Red Saber. I was summoned by cheating. Just call me Sodrick. All right, Mr. Sodlek. May I know what your intentions are? Wu Ming looked at the masters who were ready to use the command spell to summon the servants. You don't have to be nervous. I said earlier that I don't want to be enemies with you. If it weren't for Avisprin, I wouldn't have put a noble phantasm in your fortress. What I mean is very simple. What do you want me to do for you to let those androids go? What? What do you mean? Gordon, the master of Sieg, who created those androids, asked. I want to save those androids, my compatriots, Sieg said. Are you kidding me? Astolfo's master, Serenikai, said lightly. It seemed that when she saw Sieg, she went crazy. Are you kidding me? Who will let those androids go? How can I let you go? Serenikai said crazily, ignoring Wu Ming's presence. He's mine. Astolfo is mine, but he was taken away by you scum. How can I let you go? Serenikai roared at Sieg. By the command spell, Astolfo, return to my side. As Serenikai's hand moved, the command spell disappeared, and Astolfo, who was originally in the Sky Garden, appeared in the storage room by teleportation. Wah, what's going on, master? Sigh. Sodrick and Sieg. Astolfo, I command you to kill that android with 2 command spells. What? Astolfo was a little stunned. He had just been summoned, and at this moment, his master ordered him to kill the androids he saved. Looking at Astolfo, who was trembling slightly, Serenikai laughed crazily. That's right. That's right. I want to watch you kill the people you saved, watch you fall. You can only be mine. Mine. Ahaha. In addition to Wu Ming and Sieg, the 3 people present, Fiole, Collins, and Golder, all looked at Serenikai in disbelief. That's it. As the voice fell, the blade flashed. Serenikai fell to the ground, her head separated from her body. It's really a servant's misfortune to have a master like you. This just gives me a bargaining chip to negotiate with you. Wu Ming looked at Astolfo, who was kneeling on the ground and was about to disappear because of the death of his master. Wu Ming then looked at Sieg. Sieg, you now form a servant contract with Astolfo. What? Fiole and the other 2 were a little surprised that an android could form a contract with a servant. Don't you have a command spell? Then hurry up. This is your bargaining chip to help your companions. Then Wu Ming looked at Fiole, Collins, and Golder. You don't have any objections, right? In response to this semi-threatening inquiry, the 3 could only say, No, please go ahead. Hurry up, Sieg. Do you want to see Astolfo disappear? Then he looked at Fiore, Collins, and Gordon. You guys come out with me. Leave some space for Sieg and Astolfo. Yes. Yes. The 3 replied in panic. Wu Ming closed the door and waited outside with the 3. Excuse me. Mr. Sodrick, who are you? In the face of this question, Wu Ming did not answer directly. I'm a cheating servant who was summoned together with the Red Saber. My purpose is to meet the ruler, Jeanne d'Arc. Because I'm a cheating servant, I was asked by the ruler not to interfere with the Holy Grail War. Because I agreed to Siegfried's request before he died, I will protect him. So I didn't interfere with the Holy Grail War. Sieg is the one who interfered. It has nothing to do with me. Wuming finally said like a rascal. And I think when ruler comes down from the sky garden later, she will gather the remaining servants to suppress the real offenders, so we will probably be comrades later. This made the three people not dare to flatter him. As for the problem of me killing that woman, first of all, you guys attacked the people I wanted to protect. It's good that I didn't kill all of you. And I believe that you guys don't want to make a scene like that, wasting 3 command spells because of a personal grudge. In a way, I've helped you. The 3 people expressed that they had never seen such a shameless person. Chapter 70. After a while, the contract between Sieg and Astolfo was completed. Under the push of Wuming, Sieg said that as the master of Black Rider, he was willing to be used by the black side, but the premise was that the androids could no longer be used as mana supply, and the androids could no longer live in the castle. However, Fiore said that she was only the next patriarch, and the current patriarch, Danik, was still in the Sky Garden, so she couldn't promise Sieg, but she could temporarily settle the androids before Danik returned. Sieg agreed after discussing with the androids, and Wuming provided the black side's mana supply. Wuming took out a tool that could provide mana supply and gave it to Fiore, letting her connect the mana supply of each servant. Then Wuming received a message from Leo. Wuming had told Leo before that if there was any change in the Sky Garden, she should immediately let Mordred pass it to Wuming through Leo. Soon, Wuming summoned the people of the Hugo Marinia family, including Sieg and Astolfo. I received a message from my master. Vlad III had been turned into a vampire, and was killed by a red master. His master, Danica, had fused with the vampire and died together. Indeed, Archer also informed me that Uncle Danik and Lancer are dead, Fiore said. He is now retreating with Berserker, Ruler and Red Saber. It is estimated that they will reach Myrenia soon. As soon as she finished, the androids ran over to report that the black side had returned. In the conference room provided by Fiore, Joan of Arc, Wuming, Sieg, Astolfo, Fiore, Sharon, Cowles, and Gold gathered here. Even Leo and Mordred were there. Except for Frankenstein, who belonged to Berserker, who did not participate, only Castor Avisprin and his master Rock were missing. Joan of Arc began her analysis of Shiro Amakusa and the stakes of his wish. After knowing that the consequences would be severe, Hugo Marinia's side already had the intention of joining forces to stop Shiro Amakusa. After a series of non-critical analysis, Joan of Arc requested for everyone to work together. After all, this Holy Grail war was already in complete chaos. Fiore agreed to Joan of Arc's request on behalf of House Hugo Marinia. Because of the androids, Sieg and Astolfo, as allies of Hugo Marinia, also agreed to Joan of Arc's request. Their request to give the androids freedom was also approved by Fiore, who was now the acting patriarch. As for Wuming, he was originally a violator, so naturally, he had no right to speak. In addition, Wuming had a relationship with Joan of Arc, so he also agreed to Joan of Arc's request. After knowing Joan of Arc's skill, divine judgment, Leo Jiejia and Mordred also agreed to Joan of Arc's request with a command seal. Although they would choose to cooperate even if there was no command seal, after all, if the analysis was true, then they must defeat the red side. Originally, Mordred wanted 2 command seals, but Joan of Arc refused because each servant only had 2 command seals, and Wuming did not have a command seal, so he could only use Mordred's command seal. However, Joan of Arc never thought of using command seal to command Wuming. It was just an excuse to refuse Mordred's request. It could be seen that the village girl was quite smart. At this point, the Holy Grail War has been completely destroyed. Now the black side's purpose was to defeat the red side's servants and masters, and maintain the Holy Grail War. After the meeting was dismissed, everyone went to rest, but Wuming was chatting with Joan of Arc. In fact, Joan of Arc was telling Wuming about what happened in the Sky Garden. So that's how it is, Dracula? Wuming said thoughtfully. Yes, but what surprised me most was the master of all the red side servants, Shiro Amakusa. Joan of Arc was wearing a student's uniform, sitting on a chair. The Sage of the Far East? I didn't expect him to get a body and live for 60 years. His mental power is strong enough. After all, Planning for 60 years for a goal was not something an ordinary person could do. Only a hero who becomes a heroic spirit can do that. Wuming said slowly. Now that he thought about it, he was almost 60 years old. He couldn't remember. After all, age was meaningless for a race like the Dragon of Origin that was almost immortal. There must be something wrong with that man's wish. I think so. This must be the purpose of my summoning. Joan of Arc said. I see. I will do my best to help you. Please advise me, Joan of Arc. It was the first time he called Joan of Arc by her nickname, which made Joan of Arc feel a little awkward, but Joan of Arc responded. Okay, I'll leave it to you, Sodlek. At that moment, the outside of Mylnia Citadel was shaking as if there was an earthquake. Wuming and Joan of Arc looked at each other and quickly ran out. In the courtyard, several servants and masters gathered together. What happened? What the hell is going on? Gold, who was wearing pajamas, hurriedly shouted. Soon, everyone saw the culprit that caused the earthquake. There was nothing he could do about it. After all, there was a gigantic magic puppet over 10 meters tall walking towards him. The earth was trembling because of it. That's Blackcaster's noble phantasm. Joan of Arc was the first to call out the puppet's real name. Crown the Light of Wisdom, Golem Kether Malchit. I'll go first, Jehan. Wuming condensed his armor, took out Meteor Silver, and shouted at Mordred, Come with me, Mordred. Of course. Mordred's face was full of arrogance. She condensed her armor and sword and rushed forward with Wuming. Seeing the two of them rushing up, Lionjiajia asked. So where is Blackcaster? Why did he attack his own faction? Joan of Arc said. In my perception, Blackcaster has already left. This noble phantasm seems to have the property that it won't disappear even if the servant leaves. Fiore, who was standing at the side, said sadly. It seems that Rocher has been used as a furnace by Caster. In fact, after Avisprin was almost killed by Wuming, he went to crown the Light of Wisdom, Golem Kether Malchit, with his master Rocher. Because Avisprin knew that his master had no command seal, and because his magical power was almost exhausted, even if he could barely keep his body from disappearing, it would be impossible for him to complete his noble phantasm in the future. Therefore, he tricked Rocher to come here as a condition for his noble phantasm's release. He turned Rocher into a furnace and sacrificed Rocher to release his noble phantasm. And he himself knew that he was also at death's door, so he gave up himself and turned into magical power to integrate into Crown the Light of Wisdom, Golem Kether Malchit. After all, his wish was to complete his noble phantasm. Now that his wish has been fulfilled, there was no need for him to exist. Wuming and Mordred kept attacking Crown Light of Wisdom, Golem Kether Malchit, but it didn't have much effect at all. Therefore, all the damage was eliminated. That's the effect of Crown Light of Wisdom, Golem Kether Malchit, recreating the Garden of Eden, and there is no damage in the Garden of Eden. Joan of Arc shouted. You must make its feet leave the ground, and then crush its head and heart. Understood. Wuming shouted. Chapter 71. After knowing its weakness, Wuming no longer fought with the crown. Light of Wisdom, Gold Kether Malchit. Wuming released a large amount of magical power and accelerated, avoiding the Crown Light of Wisdom's attack. He then slid under the Crown Light of Wisdom and held the sword with both hands. Then he used the sword as a plank and hit the lower part of the crown, Gold Kether Malchit. That hit made the men present shudder. Don't get me wrong, Wuming wanted to hit it into the air. With the release of magical power, a large amount of magical power rushed out of Wuming's body like starlight. The Light of Wisdom, Gold Kether Malchit, was sent flying into the air by Meteor Silver, and its huge body was still struggling. Then, Wuming held the sword with both hands on his waist, and the starlight in the sky flowed rapidly, and the Meteor Silver began to gather a large amount of starlight. Silver. With the release of Noble Phantasm, Wuming swung the Meteor Silver, which gathered a large amount of starlight, upward. The starlight rushed toward the sky like a rushing river, until it completely covered the crown, the Light of Wisdom. The light beam formed by the starlight continued to fly upward until it reached a place where people couldn't see it. After a while, the light beam became thinner and thinner until it disappeared. The 10-meter-tall crown of wisdom golem Kether Malchit was completely turned into ashes. Not even a speck was left. Only a little bit of starlight that had not completely dissipated was left. Wait for me, the Silver Knight stood in place with his sword. Masters such as Fiore, Collins, and Gold were all dumbfounded. Sieg was fine after all. He was just born not long ago, and he didn't know how powerful Noble Phantasm was. The heroic spirits were still fine, but they were also a little shocked. Ow. Ow. How is this possible? How could the French General Sodlek have such a powerful noble artifact? Gold said in a trembling voice. Indeed, Sodlek only fought against ordinary people, and he didn't do anything like that. He shouldn't have such a powerful relic. Collins gulped and pushed his glasses up. Hey, Ryder, are there only a few servants with such a powerful relic? This was the question Sieg asked Astolfo. Huh. Are you an idiot, master? Such a powerful relic is already considered a first-class servant, Astolfo said. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Sodlek's noble phantasm hasn't been fully unleashed. In other words, it hasn't been fully unleashed yet, said Sharon, the black archer who was assisting on the roof earlier. On the other hand, Mordred directly rushed over to Wu Ming's neck and laughed loudly. As expected of a Villo, what a beautiful attack. Wu Ming touched the armor, took back the meteor silver, and looked at Mordred helplessly. I told you to train with me, but you didn't listen. You even started a rebellion when I wasn't around. I really don't know what you were thinking. You bastard, shut up. What's there to show off? Even so, didn't I still end King Arthur? Mordred looked at Wu Ming with a fierce expression. Even if the two of them fought on the spot, no one would doubt it. I've been curious since the beginning. Red Saber has always called Mr. Sodlek a Villo. Could it be that Mr. Sodlek isn't actually Sodlek, but a Knight of the Round Table Villo? File, who was sitting in a wheelchair, asked. As soon as she asked, the scene became silent. There was no doubt that this was a secret for the heroic spirits. In fact, there's nothing to hide. If you still don't want to sleep, then I'll tell you my story. Because of the attack of the crown, Light of Wisdom, Gold Kether Malchit, Myrenia's fortress was also damaged, so everyone didn't plan to sleep, they had to clean up the damage first. Under the command of Cowls, the androids began to move the stones and clean up the damaged places. The servants also came to help, and Cowls, Gold, and others also joined in. Only File, who had difficulty moving, sat in a wheelchair and listened to Wu Ming's story. First of all, I'm Sodlek, but I'm Villo, a Knight of the Round Table. Wu Ming raised a larger stone, and the servants were responsible for cleaning up the stones that the androids couldn't clean up. Several people were surprised when they heard that. Is the story of Sodlek fighting the mystic dragon in the Alps true? File asked. What she meant was the rumor that Sodlek let Villo, a Knight of the Round Table's incarnation, take over his body was true. No, it's half true. I did fight the mystic dragon, but that was when I was Sodlek. Wu Ming crushed the boulder. Then he asked, do you know the legend of Villo, a Knight of the Round Table? Yes, Villo was cursed by the Black Magician in order to save King Arthur's sister, Morgan Le Fay. His body turned into a dragon, and his mind was devoured. He was sealed by King Arthur, Merlin, and others. Some people also commented that Villo's incarnation was the beginning of the end of Arthur's dynasty. Cowls said, save that B*****. She was the one who forced Varen to reveal his true form, the mystic dragon, and then sealed Varen in the scroll. That despicable B*****. Mordred said as she punched out with all her might, shattering a boulder. The boulder splashed and hit Leo Jelly, causing Leo Jelly to complain, hey, be careful. Then, what does it mean to turn into a dragon? Is Villo a dragon? Leo Jelly asked. That's right. I'm a dragon, a purebred dragon, Wu Ming said calmly, as if he was talking about what he had eaten yesterday. Sigh. A few different voices cried out. Is this possible? That's a dragon. A dragon that will never be seen again in the Kanagi era. Wu Ming ignored their ruckus and continued to speak. That's right. Dragons didn't appear in King Arthur's era. Dragons weren't suitable for that era, so I turned into a human. After that, Morgan Le Fay used an unknown poison to devour my mind, and I turned back into my original form. That era couldn't bear my existence, so I was forced out of that era. This is too shocking. Gold said blankly. He didn't know that the boulder in his hand had left his palm and was smashing toward his feet. Ah. My feet. It hurts. It hurts. Ah. Gould rolled on the ground with his arms around his legs in a sorry state. Everyone laughed and continued to listen to Wu Ming tell his story. Chapter 72. Wu Ming continued. After I was expelled from that era, I experienced a lot of things that this world doesn't know and doesn't record. Finally, I came to the origin. At this point, everyone stopped what they were doing. Even Golder, who was holding his feet and crying in pain, stopped talking and looked at Wu Ming quietly. To be honest, what's so good about the origin? It's all chaos. For humans, there's no benefit in it other than being assimilated by the origin. Wu Ming said contemptuously. The magicians present all knew that Wu Ming was mocking those magicians whose ultimate goal in life was to trace the origin. However, Patriarch Darnik of the Eugomarinia family also seemed to want to trace the origin, so they who carried the name of the Eugomarinia family belonged to this kind of people. File, Collins, and Golder were all silent. Were they disappointed because the origin that the magicians had been searching for was easily found by the other party? Or were they sad because they were mocked by the other party? Wu Ming didn't know the reason for their silence, but Wu Ming knew that the 3 Eugomarinia magicians present were not evil people. From Wu Ming's point of view, the 3 Eugomarinia magicians present were not evil people. From Wu Ming's point of view, File and Collins were not suitable to be magicians. This was not referring to their aptitude, but their personality, especially File, who was like a little sister next door. Collins was fine. He could make up his mind to kill people, but he would not violate the morals in his heart. There was also Golder, the middle-aged fatty. He was proud, arrogant, and narrow-minded. Moreover, Golder had always disliked the androids, but Wu Ming could see that he had a deep impact on the androids that Ziegfeld had saved. Now, although he still spoke ill of the androids, he was much better than before in terms of details and attitude. In short, he treated the androids as humans. Then I lived in the origin. What? I know this may be unbelievable to you, but I really lived in the origin. My body is somewhat special. It can absorb the power of the origin to accelerate its growth. Then Wu Ming looked at Jean. Then, with the help of the suppression, I subconsciously reincarnated into a village in France. My physical body was still sleeping in my roots. After that, it's the story of Sadrik. In order to be able to use the noble artifact that I had when I was a Villo, the suppressive force added the story of how I met the demonic dragon that the Villo transformed into. I see. That explains why you can use Villo the Knight's noble artifacts so freely, Fiore said. After Wu Ming finished speaking, the place was pretty much cleaned up. Then Wu Ming said, "All right everyone, hurry up and go rest. We need to conserve energy for the next few days and prepare to attack the space garden." Just like that, everyone spent an incredible night. It could be said that because of Wu Ming's words, several people couldn't fall asleep. The next day in the conference room. "So, what happened again? Why did you call me up so early in the morning?" Wu Ming said as he sat in his seat. Looking at a few yawning people who hadn't fallen asleep, Wu Ming looked at Jean again. He noticed that Jean had dark circles under her eyes. Was the impact of those words on Jean too much? Wu Ming thought. It's like this. Fiore sat at the head of the table and said, "Now there is a very urgent matter." After that, she took out a newspaper and placed it in front of everyone. "Jack the Ripper?" Jean said. "Is it Black Assassin?" Wu Ming asked. "Yes. Recently, more and more people have been sacrificed in the serial murder cases. Just last night, 8 people were killed. Now dozens of people have been killed, including magician," Collins said with a serious face. "We can't get in touch with our blood relatives in Tulifas, and they're probably already. Needless to say, they must have also been killed by Black Assassin Jack the Ripper. Although this is our Eugito Myrenia's matter, Now we are unable to solve this matter, so we want to entrust the ruler to help us solve this matter. Black Assassin's practice has exceeded the rules of the Holy Grail War. As the ruler of this Holy Grail War, I have the obligation to stop Black Assassin. Please rest assured that I will help you. Jean looked at Fiore seriously. Fiore couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and said, "Great, I thought this would conflict with your identity as the ruler." "How can that be? Even if I'm not the ruler, I will still help you. After all, Black Assassin's practice is unacceptable to me. As a heroic spirit, he wantonly attacked ordinary humans and magicians. There is no doubt that Black Assassin has fallen into evil." Then Jean looked at Wuming and said with a smile, "And even without me, Sodric will definitely not allow Black Assassin to exist." Wuming, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked at Jean. "Of course, now I'm not only the French General Sodric, but also a Knight of the Round Table Villo. Such evil people must be punished. Really, I didn't want to care." After all, Sodric was the one who was righteous, not Wuming. The suppressive force created a fake history and arranged Wuming's identity as a young man with a sense of justice. Sodric sacrificed himself for his country. Although Wuming's sense of justice wasn't low either, he wasn't as righteous as Joan of Arc. However, Black Assassin Jack the Ripper is currently in Tulifas. Who knows, he might have infiltrated the castle, which would undoubtedly interfere with our plans. Yep, let's deal with Black Assassin Jack the Ripper first. That was why Wuming was said to be at Sundra. Then, do we have any information about Black Assassin now? Astolfo asked. Yes, Master and I have fought with Black Assassin before. Just as Sharon was about to tell them about Black Assassin Jack the Ripper, he was suddenly shocked. What's wrong, Archer? Fiore asked. Master, do you still remember the information about Black Assassin? Sharon asked. Sigh. How is that possible? I clearly remember. Fiore was also shocked. It seems that Black Assassin has a special ability to make people forget about him. As expected of the Jack the Ripper who fooled Scotland Yard, Wuming said. Wuming guessed that Black Assassin might have evolved into a noble phantasm because his true identity had not been discovered. Between August 7th and November 9th, 1888, Jack the Ripper killed 5 prostitutes in an extremely cruel way near Whitechapel in the East End of London. Jack the Ripper wrote many letters to Scotland Yard, the local police station, to provoke them, but he was never caught. It was not even clear whether Jack the Ripper was a man or a woman. Until now, no one had figured out who Jack the Ripper was. Wait, so we only know that Black Assassin's real name is Jack the Ripper, and we don't know anything else. Although I don't want to admit it, it is the truth. Hey. Chapter 73. In the end, everyone decided to first check the situation of the missing people of the Yugo Myrenia family in Tulifas, Myrenia Citadel corridor. Because Cowles wanted to check in person and needed to bring some tools. He left first accompanied by Sharon. Sieg and Astolfo seemed to have gone to find the androids. And Fiore became the patriarch because of Darnick's death, so she still had work to do. So now only Wuming and Jean were left. Wuming requested to set up some magic traps around Myrenia Citadel to guard against Black Assassin Jack the Ripper. At this moment, the two were on their way out of Myrenia Citadel. I really miss those relaxed days, Wuming said slowly with a nostalgic expression on his face. Joan of Arc was also deeply moved. To be honest, you've never been like a child since you were young. No matter what you do it well. You're calm and strict. Back then, there were many girls who fancied you. Jean covered her mouth and giggled. Wuming looked at Jean with a relaxed expression. I'm sorry, Jean. I didn't tell you about my past. How could that be? Jean shook her head. Because I know whether it is Villo or Sodlek, they are all you, aren't they? So I will accept them all. Then Jean showed a big smile to Wuming. After seeing this smile, Wuming also relaxed. Really? And you still say you are not a saintess? Your ability to heal people's hearts is really strong. But Jean was unhappy when she heard this, and began to preach to Wuming with a straight face. Really, Sodlek, I always said that I am not a saintess, and you still dare to tease me. Wuming quickly waved his hand and said, Sorry. Then Wu Ming looked at Jean seriously. But for you to say such things, maybe you really are a saintess sent to the human world. Jean had a helpless look on her face. Hey Jean, do you remember our companion? Wu Ming's question silenced Jean. Then she slowly said, How could I forget? They are our companions who fought off the invaders with us. That's right. This is a memory that can never be forgotten. Especially after you were captured. Gil and the others asked Charles VII, who had ascended the throne with your help, to send troops to arrest you. They knelt for 3 days and 3 nights. Is that so? I'm really sinful. Jean's face was slightly sad. Clearly, this holy maiden was unwilling to see her companions treat her in such a manner. Charles VII also wanted to save you back then, but he couldn't do it in the current situation. Gil and the others couldn't do anything either. Wu Ming looked at Jean. So I'm here. The atmosphere gradually became sorrowful. We were born together in a village called Domremy. We left the village together and fought together for 2 years. In the end, we were burned to death together. If there's anything I regret, it's that I didn't get to see the smiles of the French people defeating the invaders. But I don't regret it, Cedric. Jean looked at Wu Ming. I have sinned deeply, and I have always felt lucky to be able to return to the arms of the Lord in the end. Then Jean looked ahead and continued to speak. But I think it is a happy thing to die with you, although I don't want you to be burned to death. Then, after seeing the gate of Myrenia, Jean quickened her pace and walked out of the castle. Wu Ming gradually stopped and looked at the back of the holy maiden. As expected of someone who looks just like Lia. With that, he strode forward again. Well, I'm just not satisfied with the lack of a hogue. If Jean heard this, she would probably roll her eyes again. She might also ask who Lia was. Outside Myrenia City, Wu Ming took out a large number of scrolls from the golden ripple, and they piled up in front of Wu Ming's chest. Then Wu Ming said to Jean, These are the magic scrolls I accidentally obtained when I left Britain to travel. Jean, you and I will take half of these scrolls, and insert them around Myrenia City in a circle. Well, but it's surprising that my true name decipher didn't activate. I think these scrolls have a Nordic style, but they don't look like it, Jean said while holding a long roll of scrolls. Well, maybe it's because this is not the magic of this world. After all, this is what I got in another world, Wu Ming said. Hey, another world? Then you have to deal with these magic of another world properly. If you are accidentally discovered by the people of this world, those magicians will definitely go crazy again, Jean said with a smile. Yes, these scrolls will disappear after they are activated, and the magic will automatically dissipate when the time limit is reached. Don't worry, Wu Ming explained. Then let's get started. After that, Wu Ming and Jean began to arrange the scrolls. To ensure the powerful effect of the magic, Wu Ming told Jean to arrange the scrolls in a certain pattern with a specific technique. Although Jean was a ruler, she was still a village girl, so it was a bit difficult for her to solve some profound problems. Wu Ming could only smile helplessly and let Jean help him arrange the scrolls. Soon the two completed the arrangement of the scrolls. Wu Ming smiled and said to Jean, Jean, I remember you relied on a high school student, so do you know how to do math questions? I don't understand. Ha ha ha. Jean laughed, but the laughter was weak and awkward. Wu Ming shook his head. It's better for you to be a village girl. Leave the saintess to others. Wu Ming knocked Jean's head. Then Wu Ming didn't care about Jean, who was holding her head and acting cute, but began to activate the scrolls. It is said that the magic spells in Yggdrasil are some similar to English words. As long as you reply in English, you can basically recite the spell. As a spell similar to English words blurted out from Wu Ming's mouth, the scrolls inserted into the ground began to be burned by blue flames and instantly turned to ashes. Jean couldn't help but look around. As the scrolls disappeared one by one, the surrounding atmosphere and air seemed to be buried by something and became extremely sticky. The amount of magic in the atmosphere gradually increased, and when it reached the density of the atmosphere that modern people couldn't stand, Wu Ming stopped. Then Wu Ming opened another golden scroll and dripped a drop of his blood on it. The scroll seemed to be activated, and it was instantly burned to ashes by blue flames. At this time, the amount of magic in the air returned to normal. Really, because of the influence of my class, I can't use high-level magic at all. The scroll just now was forcibly released with my own blood. Wuming said somewhat unhappily. Those scrolls were some magic scrolls between level 40 and 60, which dealt with Wuming's skills. Magic C. Studied magic a little, but didn't pay much attention to magic. Because of Magic Dragon, the level was slightly increased. If it weren't for Magic Dragon, Wuming could only use level 20 to 40 magic. According to Wuming's inference, Yggdrasil's magic and the corresponding level of the moon world corresponded like this. Level 0 to 20 was E, level 20 to 40 was D, level 40 to 60 was C, level 60 to 80 was B, level 80 to 100 was A, and super magic was EX. The golden scroll just now was a level 80 item. Okay, now it's almost done. At this time, the rest of the people were almost ready. Chapter 74. After everyone was ready, Wuming, Joan of Arc, Sharon, and Collins went to Tulifaz's missing relatives to investigate. Fiore, Sieg, and Astolfo stayed in Myrenia Citadel. Because the missing people were distributed in different places, it took a long time to investigate the last missing person. In the basement of a room, including this place, 8 people have been investigated. This is the last place to investigate. Collins squatted on the ground and was examining the body, looking at the corpse tied to the chair with its eyes rolled back and several scalpels stabbed into its body. Everyone fell silent. Collins pulled out the scalpels one by one, and there was no more blood to flow from the wound. The results of the investigation in 8 places have a commonality. Everyone's heart was dug out. Speaking of this, everyone present frowned. The heart is the essence of magic power. It's not surprising for Black Assassin to have it dug out. Wuming stood aside with his hands on his chest and then said, maybe Black Assassin's master is an ordinary person, not a magician. This reminded everyone. Then digging out a magician's heart to replenish magic power makes sense, Sharon said. In addition to digging out the heart, the body looked like it was interrogated before death. And the torture method was extremely cruel, Collins said. The strange thing is that some of the bodies have traces of torture, and some of the bodies have no traces of torture. That's what's strange. Sharon continued what Collins was about to say. Is it possible that Black Assassin needs people's fear so they tortured these people? Joan of Arc asked. Impossible. This can't explain why some of the bodies have no traces of torture. And it's not that there wasn't enough time. We were all busy with the war between the Black and Red before, and we didn't have time to care about Black Assassin. Wuming shook his head and said with a frown. I thought it was a magic ritual, but it doesn't look like it, Sharon also said. Cowles stood up and walked back. In that case, I'd better implement remnant memory. Jean did not understand these magic tricks and asked, what is that? It's a kind of magic that can obtain information about them before they die, although it's a little dangerous. Collins took a chair and said, but now we can only abandon the rook to save the king. Wait. Wuming seemed to have sensed something and quickly said. After that, he rushed out in an instant, leaving only one sentence. The magic trap I left in Myrenia has been triggered. The opponent is a servant. What? Carong immediately ran over as well. Berserker. Cowles shouted to Sharon. Ah! Cried Frankenstein and ran out. The people being interrogated are all people who have the password to open the mechanism in Myrenia Citadel. So that's how it is. Black Assassin wants to attack Myrenia Citadel, Collins analyzed. After listening, Jean hurriedly ran out. Only Cowles followed him out unhurriedly. After all, no matter how fast he could not reach the speed of a servant. Not to mention, he needed to calm down. Cowles picked up his phone at this time and wanted to call his sister, but at this time, the phone showed that there was no signal. Sister, please don't let anything happen to you. Cowles could only pray like this. At this moment, Hugo Myrenia family, Myrenia Citadel. Around the edge of the citadel, magic formed a protective barrier, protecting the entire citadel in a hemispherical shape. The outside of the protective barrier was filled with thick fog, including the roof. The cyborgs who were originally left outside Myrenia's citadel also withdrew. In the hall at the entrance, Gold, Sieg, and Astolfo were checking these cyborgs. Some of the cyborgs were outside the protective barrier and inhaled slight fog acid. Fortunately, they were treated in time, and there were no casualties for the time being. Gold asked at this time, "Where is Fiore now? Is there a guard around her?" A cyborgs on the side replied, "The Patriarch is now in the former Patriarch's study. There is no guard around her at the moment." As soon as he heard that, Sieg immediately turned around. "Hurry, Rider, the enemy may be a servant." Oh, understood. After saying that, the two quickly ran toward the study. Gold was left behind with a confused look. At this moment, the protective barrier outside seemed to have reached its limit and broke with a bang. The thick fog spread to Myrenia's citadel at a speed visible to the naked eye. Damn it. Gold quickly took out a golden sandalwood-like box, put it at the door, opened the lid, and a purple smoke came out. This purple smoke seemed to have the effect of blocking the thick fog, and the thick fog did not come in through the gap of the main door. However, other places in Myrenia's citadel were invaded by the thick fog. Slowly, the entire corridor where Fiore was located was filled with thick fog. Fiore, who was still busy working in the study, also found something wrong at this moment. She quickly opened the door and looked at the corridor. Looking at the corridor covered with thick fog, Fiore took out a magic handkerchief, covered her nose and mouth with one hand, and pushed the wheelchair with the other hand, walking toward the room where her magic dress was stored. After all, Fiore's legs were paralyzed because of the deterioration of the magic circuit. She said that she had obtained extraordinary magic skills, but she could not move freely. Usually, she relied on the magic dress she developed to move. Link Enhanced Magic Dress was the name of Fiore's self-designed magic dress. It was a prop specially designed to replace the immobile feat. However, even a third-rate magician would become a first-rate magician if he were to put on this set of clothes. The shape was similar to a backpack, and there were 4 artificial hands on the back. It was forged with a special alloy that was easier to circulate magic. Each artificial hand had an animal spirit attached to it, and it could move according to Fiore's will. It could also move automatically according to the situation to protect Fiore as the owner. When Fiore finally walked to the door of the room where the magic dress was stored, Fiore caught a glimpse of a strange little girl standing behind her with a knife. But there was no doubt that this cute little girl with white hair was the serial killer, Black Assassin Jack the Ripper. Maybe Fiore was a little panicked. After opening the door, her body tilted and the wheelchair fell to the ground. Fiore hurriedly climbed in, and then closed the door with a spell. Just as Fiore heaved a sigh of relief, the door was opened again. "I'm so sorry, sister. I know the spell of this door." The innocent child's gentle words made Fiore's whole body cold, and her pupils shrank. There was no doubt that this was the voice of hell. Chapter 75. Fiore hurriedly reached for the box on the table, but how could Jack let her get it? Jack jumped lightly and stood on the table. He stepped on the box and picked it up. "This must be something very important to Big Sister. I can't let you get it." It was still that sweet voice, but Fiore still couldn't hear the sweetness. "Is that so? Then I'll use this first." Fiole suddenly raised her hand, which had been equipped with a magic suit at some point in time. She pointed at the 2 mechanical arms that were connected to the back of a chair by the wall. Following Fiole's command, the mechanical arms shot out magic bullets. Jack jumped back and used the box in his hand to block the attack. Then Fiore made a prompt decision. She equipped the mechanical arms and jumped out of the window. Pung! The window was broken. Fiore relied on the mechanical arms and barely reached the ground. Just as she stabilized her body, she saw a sword attack. Ka! One of the mechanical arms was broken. It was cut off by Black Assassin Jack the Ripper, who had caught up with Fiore with agility. "Big Sister, because of the magic trap outside, I wasted a lot of time." Assassin took the dagger that was still dripping blood, and walked in front of Fiore, who was paralyzed on the ground. "Be obedient and let me kill you, Big Sister." At this moment, a meteor-like light arrow shot toward Jack. Jack nimbly jumped back and dodged the light arrow. The light arrow pierced the place where Jack was originally standing and buried deep into the ground. The light scattered and the light arrow revealed its original shape. It was a shining knight's sword that shone like a fashion trend. Oh, a weapon I've never seen before. Is it a servant? Jack said to himself. At the same time, he looked in the direction of the light arrow in the fog. Wu Ming, who was dressed casually, walked over unhurriedly. His hand reached into the golden ripples and took out a bottle of recovery potion. He handed it to Fiore, who was still in the fog. This is a recovery potion. Drink it first. Oh, okay, thank you. Fiore was a little confused, but she still followed Wu Ming's instructions and drank the red potion. Wu Ming then pulled out the meteor silver that he had bought from the ground. Black Assassin Jack the Ripper. Am I right? Wu Ming looked at the young Jack. That's right, I'm Jack. So, big brother, do you want to be killed by me? Jack asked innocently. I'm sorry, but I'm here to crusade against you. After saying that, Wu Ming pressed the tip of the meteor silver sword to the ground and instantly released all of his magic power. The release of mana led to the movement of the air. At this moment, the mana produced by Wu Ming's body instantly blew away the thick fog that covered the surroundings. What? Jack cried out in surprise. Although the fog was also a type of fog, it was formed by Jack's noble phantasm. He did not expect it to be blown away so easily. Then, Wu Ming instantly put on his armor and rushed forward. Because of Wu Ming's B+ dexterity attribute, his dexterity was comparable to that of a rank A. Even Jack almost could not react to this attack. Bang! The ground was shattered by Wu Ming's knight's sword. Jack narrowly avoided this attack, but before she could stand firm, Wu Ming rushed up with his sword again. Realizing that she could not avoid it, Jack tried to use the dagger in her hand to block the knight's sword that pierced through the air. However, it was useless. Jack's weapon could not defend against Wu Ming's A+ strength. The huge impact sent Jack flying. A wound from her left shoulder to her right abdomen appeared on Jack's body, and blood flowed freely. It hurts, Mom, it hurts, Jack said weakly as she lay on the ground. That's enough, Black Assassin. Wu Ming held the meteor silver and looked at Black Assassin, who was lying on the ground and unable to get up again. However, Jack's figure became illusory. Wu Ming sensed that something was wrong and rushed up. Wu Ming fiercely stabbed his sword into Jack, who was paralyzed on the ground. The meteor silver stabbed into the ground, and Jack, who was originally here, was gone. Command curse. Wu Ming pulled out his sword and said calmly. Then Wu Ming looked around. The fog that was still gathering after being blown away disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Master. Sharon, who was dressed in ancient Greek clothing, jumped down from the roof. Master, are you okay? Sharon crouched down and wanted to help Fiore, who was lying on the ground. I'm fine, Archer. It's all thanks to Mr. Sodrick this time. Fiore stood up with Karen's help and thanked Wu Ming. Thank you very much, Mr. Sodrick. Thank you, Mr. Sodrick. I will repay your kindness to my master. Sharon also thanked Wu Ming. All right, don't thank me yet. Take Fiore back to rest. I'll go see how the others are doing in the fortress. Then Sharon brought Fiore back to the room. Wu Ming saw Sieg and Astolfo, who hurried downstairs. Mr. Sodrick, how are you? Are you okay? Sieg asked worriedly. The fog has dissipated. Did Assassin retreat? Astolfo asked. Wu Ming put the meteor silver into golden ripple and said to the two, Black Assassin Jack the Ripper has been injured by me. When I dealt the fatal blow, his master used a command curse to summon him back. After saying that, Sieg and Astolfo let out a sigh of relief. After all, they knew that the other party was not a powerful servant. By the way, are some of the androids poisoned? Wu Ming asked. Yes, because some of them accidentally inhaled some of the fog outside the protective shield you set up. But there are no deaths for now, Astolfo said. Then I'll give you these. After saying that, Wu Ming opened the golden ripple again and took out a large amount of red potions from it. I've given it to you before, and you've used it before. You should know how to use it. Give it to the androids. Sieg and Astolfo held more than 10 bottles of red potions and looked at Wu Ming, not knowing what to do. That. Mr. Sodrick, you haven't used all the potions you gave us before. You don't have to give them to us anymore. Sieg asked carefully. Yeah, I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. Astolfo agreed. Wuming just smiled faintly. Save the extra for later. If one day I'm not here, you won't be able to find me even if you want to. With that, he strode towards Jean, who had just rushed over. Looking at Wuming and Jean talking about the attack, Sieg was a little stunned. Astolfo noticed it and asked, "What's wrong? You look very confused." "Mr. Sodrick, I miss the humans of this era. I almost forgot the fact that he is a heroic spirit." Astolfo thought for a while and said, "Maybe Sodrick has experienced a lot, so it's easy for him to go deep into various eras. After all, didn't he say that he traveled through the world as a dragon? He must have experienced several different eras." "Is that so?" Sieg said faintly. Okay, let's go and give these potions to the androids first. Let's go. Wait for me, Ryder." Chapter 76. Evening, Myrenia Citadel, Conference Room. Everyone sat in their chairs and looked at Wuming, who was analyzing the situation. Black Assassin does have the ability to erase his memory and information. This has been confirmed. Wuming crossed his arms and looked at everyone. "But I can feel that Black Assassin has been injured by me. That's what my sword said. And if the other master is an ordinary person, then Black Assassin will definitely attack again because he needs to replenish his magic and recover his body." Collins put the organized files on the table and said, "According to our investigation in Japan, at the place where our original master of Black Assassin, Xiangliang Leopard Horse, was killed, there were no traces of the death of the sacrifice used, the six guides Lingxia. Furthermore, there were no signs of a transfer charm in Xiangliang Leopard Horse's hands. It can be inferred that during the summoning process, the six guides Lingxia was automatically selected as its master by Black Assassin, and after the original master Xiangliang Leopard Horse summoned Black Assassin, it killed Xiangliang Leopard Horse. This is the information of six guides Lingxia. In other words, the other party will definitely attack again, right?" Astolfo said. "Yes, what we need to do now is to wait for Black Assassin to come," Wuming said. "And Black Assassin triggered my magic trap, leaving a mark on his body. As long as he comes within a certain range of me, I can detect him." "But how do we lure Black Assassin out?" Fiore asked. After a short rest, because Fiore was not injured, and because she was the current leader of Ujido Myrenia, she came to participate in this meeting. "I can be the bait," Sieg stood up and said. "No way. It's too dangerous, Master. You are not a servant at all. You can't defend against an unexpected attack." As Sieg's servant, Astolfo immediately retorted, "That's right, Sieg. Although you want to help everyone, you are too weak as a human." Because of Zijafai's heart, Sieg's body was no different from an ordinary person. His magic circuit was also of high quality. His physical fitness was even better than ordinary people. However, Sieg was still a human being. He couldn't defend himself from the attacks of the servants in the dark. Even the weakest assassin couldn't do that. It wasn't that Sieg was weak, nor was it discriminating against servants, but Sieg's servant was too powerful. "Don't worry, Siegelkoen. Because I'm a servant, I can suppress the presence of a servant," Jean said. "And I will be by Jean's side. I have this item that can shield my aura. Nothing will happen. Please rest assured." Wuming echoed. "Yes, I understand," Sieg said with disappointment. Wuming took a deep look at Sieg and then ignored him. Astolfo is responsible for observing from the sky. Sharon is responsible for sniping from Mylenia's fortress, and Sodlek and Jean will be the bait. Collins said. "So it's decided." In order to prevent Black Assassin from attacking ordinary people at night, let's act tonight. Wuming stood up and said. "Yes." Everyone replied. After the meeting, Wuming did not choose to have dinner with Jean. Instead, he went to Sieg and said, "Let's talk, Sieg." "Zai." Sieg and Astolfo said. After a while, Jean took Astolfo to the restaurant. Wuming and Sieg walked on the wall of Mylenia's fortress. "Sieg, do you think you are useless?" Wuming took the lead to speak. Sigh. Mr. Sodlek. I really want to repay you for helping me. But, Sieg said softly. Sieg is willing to give you the heart, not only because he wants to help the people in need, but also because he wants to help the people who ask for help and the people who don't give up. Wuming stood on the edge of the wall and looked at the endless grassland in the distance. The grassland, which was originally the battlefield of the Black and Red Army, had been repaired by magic, and there was no trace of damage. Even so, I haven't been of much help to everyone. I've always been asking for help. Everything depends on you, whether it's saving my fellow countrymen, Miss Fiore being attacked by Black Assassin, or acting as bait. If it weren't for you, I would have been in a worse situation. Sieg lowered his head in disappointment. You underestimate yourself, Sieg. Sieg did not speak, but looked at Wuming with some doubts. Let's not talk about the fact that you have the best magic circuit as an android. You are now the master of a servant. Wuming turned around, looked at Sieg, and continued. The master of a servant is not something that any magician can be, not to mention that you became a master by virtue of your bond with a servant. Although he saved you out of a sense of heroism, he was willing to conclude a contract with you because he remembered your character, and Astolfo saw it in his eyes, and he recognized you as a human. You conveyed your will to me, to the people of Yugo Marinia. Otherwise, even I alone can't change their view of you. What Wu Ming said was true. Afterward, Wu Ming told Yugo Marinia and the others about Sieg's thoughts. After listening, they were silent for a long time. Only Golder was a little uneasy, but under Wu Ming's pressure, he didn't say anything. And those androids, I believe they must be grateful to you now for helping them win freedom. Then Wu Ming turned back. Wu Ming looked at the vast night sky and said, Let's take the example in front of us, valiant spirit, a servant. Look at Astolfo. His power is weak among the servants. Some powerful magicians can defeat him, but have you ever seen him discouraged? You know the story of Astolfo, right? His strength in the legend of Charlemagne is too different from the other warriors, but he can still be ranked as one of the 12 warriors of Charlemagne. Do you know why? Wu Ming asked. Sorry, I don't know, Sieg replied. It was too complicated for an android who was born not long ago. That's because he has the power of the heart. The power of the heart. Sieg said thoughtfully. Whether it's the declaration of destruction that can break all magic from the witch, or the lost spear of Argalia, or the magic horse from the evil magician Atlanta, Astolfo relied on the power given by others to get through the difficulties. And Astolfo has a strong heart, a casual and upright character. So he was entrusted by so many people. It was precisely because Astolfo didn't care much about these external forces that he was included in the list of her noble phantoms. The strength of the heart is the real strength. The strength of the heart is the real strength. Sieg muttered this sentence, thinking, This is what my grandfather who adopted me told me, and I always remember the truth he taught me. Then, as if he had thought of something, Wu Ming said, Right, by the way, protecting you wasn't just because of Ziegfeld's request, but also because I have a whole new level of respect for you. Also, since you have accepted Ziegfeld's heart, you must have also obtained his power, but it hasn't been activated yet. Wu Ming turned around and was ready to leave. After all, if he didn't leave, his stomach wouldn't be able to stand it. Think about it, don't worry about us tonight, believe in the power of the heart. Chapter 77. After leaving the city wall, Wu Ming went to the dining hall. Everyone else had already finished eating. Only Jean and Astolfo were still waiting. Jean returned to the dining hall because her body needed to eat. Astolfo didn't need to eat, but he would eat with Sieg. Wu Ming was the same. Wu Ming would eat with Jean. Yo, Sodric. Astolfo greeted him warmly. How is it? Jean asked. He won't understand in a short time. There's still a long way to go. There's no need to rush, Wu Ming replied with a smile. Then hurry up and eat, Sodric. After a while, Sodric and Jean were almost done eating, but Sieg still hadn't arrived. Why isn't Sieg here yet? Did you make him stupid, Sodric? Astolfo said while lying on the table in boredom. Coincidentally, Sieg pushed the door open and entered just as Astolfo finished speaking. Sigh, Mr. Sodric. Sieg was a little embarrassed because he had just been lectured by Wuming. He was like a student who had just met his teacher. Hurry up. Sieg, hurry up and eat. We still have to move later, Astolfo said. Oh, okay. Soon everyone was ready. Fiol and Cowles were overseeing Myrenia Citadel. Frankenstein followed Cowles and Fiol, and was responsible for protecting them. Wuming and Jean were the main force and bait. Astolfo was scouting from the sky. Sieg had to deal with special situations with Astolfo, so he rode the eagle with Astolfo. In the end, Sharon would use all-seeing eyes to snipe. As for Leo Gielli and Mordred, they were on different sides. Even with Wuming, Leo Gielli still insisted on moving separately. After discussing how to deal with Shiro Amakusa, the two of them found a graveyard near Tulifa's and left Myrenia Citadel. Let's go, Jean. Okay. Wuming took out a bottle of potion and drank it. This was a high-level potion from the YGGDRESSIL, World Tree, that had a special invisibility ability. It could block the detection of skills, and only the detection of buildings could see through it. After drinking it, Wuming instantly became transparent. After seeing Wuming disappear, Jean suppressed her magic power and began to act as bait on the street. Because of the man-killer fiends that appeared in Tulifa's, no one went out at night. The moonlight shone on the ground, and Joan of Arc, wearing a student uniform, walked on the street step by step. Many residents were already asleep, and there were only a few households with their lights on. Even so, the surroundings were not dark. After all, the moon tonight was much brighter than usual. Wuming hid his figure and followed behind Joan of Arc. Although the plan is good, I'm afraid that the other party won't play by the rules. Wuming thought so. And just in case, Wuming had already set up magic scrolls around Myrenia Citadel. And with Sharon and Frankenstein in the Citadel, there was no way for anything to go wrong. Fortunately, Black Assassin wasn't as sly as Wuming thought. Slowly, the surroundings started to become foggy. Whether it was Sharon, who was using clairvoyance to observe from the top of the Citadel, or Astolfo, who was riding an eagle together with Sieg, they were all tense as they observed Joan of Arc's surroundings. At the corner in front of them, a black shadow flashed by, and Joan of Arc saw it. It was as if the shadow was luring Joan of Arc. Seems like the other party isn't a simple person. He knows how to lure the enemy. Wuming said from behind Joan of Arc. Then do we need to chase after him? Joan of Arc asked without turning her head. Of course, the other party has already created an opportunity for us. How could we not use it? Don't worry, I'll be right behind you. Yeah. After that, Joan of Arc rushed to the place where the black shadow disappeared. After a series of tossing and turning, the black shadow led Joan of Arc to a residential area that was accessible in all directions. Joan of Arc stood in an empty place and carefully observed the surroundings. On the roof of a residential building behind Joan of Arc, Black Assassin Jack the Ripper's figure emerged. From now on, it will be hell. Black Assassin was seen in a pose, holding the two swords backward, and chanting, "We are fire, we are rain. Strength, Mary Ripper." The moment he shouted out the noble phantasm, Black Assassin rushed to Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc immediately sensed the danger, and quickly condensed the armor and the holy flag. Clank! What? Black Assassin Jack the Ripper shouted in disbelief. His pair of daggers were blocked by something invisible. Wuming appeared, holding the meteor silver, and was in a stalemate with Jack's daggers. Long time no see, Assassin Jack the Ripper. The moment he saw Jack the Ripper, Wuming recalled all kinds of information about Jack before. Wuming lifted Jack and sent him flying. Jack flipped in the air and stabilized his body when he landed. Why? How can you be okay? Jack's noble phantasm, Mary Ripper, used 4 level D daggers to inflict curse-type damage on enemies with specific conditions. When the conditions were met, there would be a curse effect of resentment. It was said that there were more than 80,000 prostitutes in London's slums who were killed and thrown away for the sake of living. There were 3 conditions. Night. Female. Fog. If Jack used his noble phantasm when all the conditions were met, the target's internal organs would immediately be pulled out of the body and become a corpse to be dissected. If the conditions were not met, it would only inflict damage, But at this time, every time the conditions were met, the power would also increase. But, big brother and big sister, why are you okay? Jack's noble phantasm was not a dagger attack, but a curse, so it could be used from a distance. That meant it could be targeted from a distance. Even if someone blocked the noble phantasm, the targeted person would be hurt. Jack was a little confused. Even if it couldn't cause a fatal blow to the opponent, it should at least cause some damage. But Jack looked at Wyrm. He clearly hit Wyrm, but he didn't see any effect. And Joan of Arc, who was behind him, also didn't seem to be affected. How can using a curse on the mystic dragon work? Wyrm said sarcastically. Mystic dragon EX. Entangled by the so-called curse of being possessed by the mystic dragon, cursed as a dragon with huge magical power, basically ignoring all negative effects. The curse of 80,000 abandoned babies is not enough. Wyrm shouted. And I have resistance to curses. Even if you hit me, it will only cause a little damage, and it can't cause fatal damage to me at all. Joan of Arc, who was holding the holy flag, said. What was needed to defend against the effect of this noble phantasm was not physical defense, but resistance to curses. It happened that Joan of Arc, as a saintess, naturally had resistance to curses, and her level was not low. Surrender, Jack. If you surrender now, I won't kill you. Sigh. Chapter 78. Sigh. Not only Jack was puzzled, but even Jean was also puzzled. If you surrender now, I will restrict your freedom until the end of the Holy Grail War, Wyrm continued. For some reason, Wyrm rejected the original plan to get rid of Jack the Ripper. But Jean seemed to want to say something. However, Wyrm interrupted her. Let me be willful for once, Jean. Okay then. After all, Jean and Cedric were close friends who had gone through life and death together. After thinking for a while, Jean, who couldn't think of a reason, decided to believe in Cedric, who was also Wyrm. After seeing Jean agree, Wyrm smiled. Then he said to Jack, how about it? Have you thought about it? Your body hasn't fully recovered yet. It must be very disadvantageous for you to go against us. Wyrm looked at Jack, whose body was wrapped in bandages, and saw at a glance that Jack's injury caused by Wyrm hadn't recovered yet. I refuse, big brother. What are you talking about? We are enemies now. Jack's innocent face looked at Wyrm expressionlessly. Is that so? Is that your answer? Wyrm closed his eyes and said. Then I will completely defeat you. Wyrm opened his eyes and red vertical pupils appeared in his black pearl-like eyes. The shiny silver armor was instantly donned. Wyrm held his knight's sword and rushed towards Jack in an instant. Jack also came prepared this time. At the moment Wyrm moved, he also jumped back and threw a child out of the darkness. Wyrm held the child, looked at Jack who jumped on the roof and began to retreat, and quickly handed the child to Jean. Jean, I'll leave him to you. No problem, don't worry, go after him. After Jean took the child, Wyrm looked in Jack's direction. Jack jumped onto the roof, looked at Wyrm, and began to jump from house to house. Meanwhile, Wyrm stomped the ground with his right foot, releasing a large amount of mana. With Wyrm's right foot as the center, spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the ground. Wyrm directly charged into the sky, bursting toward Jack, who was constantly jumping on rooftops. What? Jack felt Wyrm catching up. He turned around and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Jack hurriedly changed directions and jumped into the complicated and narrow residential streets in an instant, sprinting quickly. With Jack's dexterity, coupled with his aura-blocking ace skill, it was reasonable to say that escaping should not be a problem. However, a few arrows were shot from a distance in front of Jack's path. Now Jack couldn't slow down at all. If he slowed down, Wyrm would catch up. But if he didn't slow down, the arrow in front of him would definitely hit him. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. Jack was on guard against Wyrm catching up and waiting for him. While holding a dagger, he was ready to cut off the arrows. Just as Jack cut off these arrows, suddenly a special arrow that was twice as fast as the previous arrows burst toward him. Jack was just about to use his dagger to hit the arrow when Wyrm, who was behind him, shouted, "Don't even think about it." Wuming gathered his mana on the meteor silver sword, held the hilt with a backhand grip, and threw it out like a javelin. Jack knew that he couldn't block this blow, so he could only use his dagger to block the sword's trajectory. Poochie! The arrow that burst out directly shot through one of Jack's legs. Because of the impact of the arrow, Jack's leg was directly broken. The broken part showed a golden state of spirit, and Jack fell weakly to the street. Jack looked at Wuming, who was chasing over, and no one knew what he was thinking. Wuming didn't launch an attack and just watched. Then Wuming felt a wave of spatial fluctuations, and Jack disappeared in front of Wuming's eyes. Sure enough, it's a command spell again. Wuming stood on a building and watched Jack disappear. But Wuming had already suffered once, and he definitely wouldn't suffer again. When Jack attacked File last time, Jack had been marked by Wuming's magic trap. Although there was a time limit, in the current situation, there was plenty of time. As long as he wasn't far away from Wuming, he wouldn't be able to get rid of Wuming's pursuit. At this moment, the mark Jack in Wuming's eyes was like a lighthouse in the dark sea, very conspicuous. And in order to prevent Jack from being summoned away by his master with a command spell again, Wuming and Jean deliberately chose to act as bait in the central area of Tulifas. In the center of Tulifas, Wuming could almost perceive 80% of the area with Tulifas as the center of the circle. In this way, even if his master used a command spell to summon Jack away again, even if Jack led Jean away a little before, it wouldn't have much impact on Wuming's perception of Jack. In case of accidents, Wuming also prepared a tool to enhance the magic of intelligence. Of course, the premise of this series of conditions was that Jack's master was in Tulifas, otherwise Wuming couldn't do anything. According to Wuming's inference through his sword, Jack was seriously injured and couldn't leave Tulifas in such a short time. He could only kill people in Tulifas and dig out their hearts to replenish his magic power. Otherwise, as long as he accidentally encountered a black side or a red side servant, he wouldn't even have the power to protect himself. Sure enough, the mark on Jack's body moved to the opposite direction of Wuming's pursuit of Jack. It seemed that the other side had already discussed it. When they were defeated, they would run in the opposite direction, and then the master would use a command spell to summon Jack back. However, the other side may not have thought that Wuming's combat power was so strong that Jack almost died here. In this way, as long as we find the location of his master, then we won't be afraid of Jack escaping again. With that, Wuming instantly turned around, released his magic power, and burst toward the place where Wuming sensed at the moment. However, the roof that Wuming was standing on was already shattered to the point that it couldn't be any more shattered. It woke up the people who were sleeping in the house. In a house, next to a corpse, a woman was holding Jack, who was running on the street before. She had long green straight hair to her waist, a green off-shoulder skirt, a brown jacket with black fluff on the jacket, and a pair of black knee-high boots on her legs. She looked like a woman with the temperament of a rich young lady. This was the current master of Black Assassin Jack the Ripper, the person who was sacrificed by the former master Xiangliang Leopard Horse, Six Guides Ling Xia. "Jack, are you okay?" Six Guides Ling Xia asked Jack with an unusually gentle tone, while touching her head and looking at her short legs that were still spiritualized. "It hurts, Mom, it hurts." Jack choked with tears in the corner of her eyes. If it wasn't for the bloodstains, daggers, and broken legs on her body, anyone would think that she was a cute child who was bullied. Moreover, the wee Jack was referring to was herself, not her and Six Guides Ling Xia. Because Wuming had said before that Jack used the curse of 80,000 abandoned babies, which meant that her true body was 80,000 abandoned babies. "Okay, Mom will take you out of here." With that, Six Guides Ling Xia stood up, picked up Jack, who couldn't move because of her broken legs, and walked toward the door. Click! Six Guides Ling Xia opened the door and walked out. Whoosh! Chapter 79. Poochie. It was the sound of an arrow piercing into a body. Plop! Sixth Guide Reen collapsed to the ground, and together with Jack she fell. A sharp arrow pierced through the two of them. In the distance, Atlanta maintained her shooting posture, and looked at the two pairs of figures that fell in the distance. Mom. Jack laid in Sixth Guide Reen's arms and struggled to raise her head to look at her. Sixth Guide Reen opened her eyes with difficulty and looked at Jack, who was pierced with her. She raised her hand and stroked Jack's face. Jack, it's okay. I'll use the last command incantation. Jack, even without me you'll be fine. A red light flashed, and the last command incantation in Sixth Guide Reen's hand disappeared. Then Sixth Guide Reen lowered her hand and closed her eyes. Mom, whoosh. Poochie. Another arrow shot into Jack's body. Jack could no longer hold on and fell down. Atlanta walked out of the thick fog, looked at the mother and daughter, and shook her head. Such a young child. And yet she became a heroic spirit. She sighed as she spoke. However, at this moment, Jack's corpse moved. Jack stood up as if nothing had happened, and stood up together with the arrow that pierced her and Sixth Guide Reen. Atlanta quickly jumped back and aimed at her with her bow. Jack turned her body and stood in front of Atlanta. Her head suddenly turned 90 degrees, looked at Atlanta, and said, Why? Poochie. Then Jack's body suddenly burst open, and a huge cloud of smoke instantly spread out with Jack as the center. The smoke enveloped Atlanta and Wuming, who had already rushed over. And even Jeanne d'Arc, who was holding a child in the distance, was also involved. A large amount of magic smoke filled Wuming. Wuming closed his eyes and used his mind's eye and his magic detection to explore the surrounding environment. This is an inherent enchantment, Wuming said in surprise. When the smoke dissipated, the scene in front of Wuming had completely changed. Wuming was now at the intersection of an alley. Wuming frowned and looked around. Decay and dilapidation filled this era. The smog produced by industrial production completely covered this city. Everything in front of him, the walls, the ground, and the houses were all grayish-black, an uncomfortable color. Looking at the newspaper that was blown by the wind, Wuming reached out and grabbed it. What entered his eyes was a large amount of English. I see. If I'm not mistaken, this should be England in 1888. Wuming tossed the newspaper aside and began to walk out of the alley. Just as he was about to reach the main street, he heard a cry for help. Let go of me. Help. Wuming looked in the direction of the cry for help. It was a burly man with a beer bottle who was bullying a teenage girl. The girl's face was covered with a thick layer of foundation. Her face was made up like a young married woman, and her lips were painted with bright red lipstick. Her face and body did not match at all. For such a young child to come out with such thick makeup, Wuming could already tell what this young girl did for a living. Stop. Wuming shouted. Even if he knew that all of this was Jack the Ripper's imagination, an illusion created by the inherent enchantment, Wuming could not help but stop this scene. When the man noticed that there was someone else, he hurriedly ran away. When the girl saw Wuming, she also ran away in a panic. However, the place she escaped to was the main street. The moment the girl left the street, a carriage rushed towards her. In her desperate eyes, the carriage was getting closer and closer to her. Wuming reached out his hand and pulled the young girl back before she could react. The girl looked at Wuming and did not say anything, nor did she have any intention of thanking him. Once, she turned around and prepared to run away. Is this the environment you live in, Jack? Hearing this sentence, the girl paused for a moment, then turned her head to look at Wuming. That's right. This is the miserable world in which we abandoned babies by those prostitutes live. Looking at Wuming, who still wanted to say something, she did not intend to listen. Instead, she turned around and left. The girl looked at Wuming's departure and froze in place. Then, she also left Wuming's perception range, not knowing where she went. Because of the Industrial Revolution, England became unprecedentedly powerful, and after becoming powerful, it brought about decadent prosperity. Although not everyone was decadent, from the current living situation in the inherent enchantment, these children must not be living well. The reason why Wuming decided not to kill Jack, and even ignored one of the Jacks he met just now, was because Wuming felt that they should not bear this kind of pain and this kind of curse. As for whether he could save Jack, Wuming already had some ideas in his mind. After all, he was also called a hero. The most important thing is to find Jehan first. With her personality, she will definitely release Jack. At this time, Jehan met Jack. No, it should be said that Jack found Jahan himself. Jahan walked on the smoke-filled street, looked around at the streets that were completely different from Tulipa's, and said, "This is London?" Looking at the illusory black undead passers-by on the road, Jahan frowned. This is the black assassin's dream, her nightmare. At this moment, Jack, whose body had become abnormally small, quietly appeared behind Jahan, and then bursts of smoke began to surround Jahan. And Jahan seemed to have sensed it, and her body emitted light, dispelling the surrounding smoke. And Jack, on the other hand, fled in a hurry. Jahan turned around and looked in the direction Jack escaped. There. After saying that, she followed. On the other side, Wuming was looking for Jack's body with his intuition, and accidentally found a pair of acquaintances. Sieg? Astolfo? How did you get here? Wuming looked at Sieg, who was being comforted by Astolfo, and said, "Ah, it's Cedric, that's great. Just now we learned that Jack's master used a command spell, and we searched according to the magic source that Sharon accidentally found. Just when we landed, a cloud of smoke suddenly surrounded me and Master, and just now, something like an illusion appeared. Master couldn't accept it for a while, so I was comforting him." Astolfo explained. "Cedric. Mr." Sieg raised his lowered head and looked at Wuming with unusually tired eyes. "Is that real? Ryder told me that it's not real." But Wuming looked at Sieg and said, "Since you saw it, you must accept it, Sieg." After hearing this sentence, Sieg's eyes instantly widened. "In other words, it's all real," Sieg said with an "I knew it" expression. "But the people or things you've been in contact with these days are not fake. I can only say that humans are such an animal." Looking at Sieg, who was still in a daze, Wuming looked at Astolfo. "Astolfo, I'll leave Sieg to you. You stay here and protect him. Don't let him run around again." Oh, I got it." After saying that, Wuming turned and left. He still had to find Jack. Chapter 80. Joan of Arc chased Jack until a dead end, where Jack could no longer escape. Joan of Arc looked at Jack, who stopped moving forward, and said, "What, you're not going to run anymore?" The young Jack looked at Joan of Arc, who exuded a holy aura, and said in fear, Are you not afraid of Jack the Ripper?" Joan of Arc shook her head calmly. "All of you are nothing more than victims of a tragedy." Jack was also relatively calm. With a wave of her hand, several children appeared in the smoke around them. They were boys and girls. The oldest was about 11 or 12 years old, and the youngest was about 4 or 5 years old. These children began to ask Joan of Arc for help. "Joan of Arc, Lady Joan of Arc, Lady Joan of Arc, please save us. I'm counting on you. Save poor Jack." They raised their hands and moved in the direction of Joan of Arc like a group of ghosts. Joan of Arc said without changing her expression, "I can't do it." In an instant, these children stopped their actions and looked at Joan of Arc with their eyes wide open. "You have been absorbed by the legend of Jack the Ripper." Then Joan of Arc's right hand began to glow. "Even if I can beat you down, I can't save you." Looking at the children who retreated with wide eyes, Joan of Arc continued, "You should understand now. The swelling hatred and the despair of the victims have changed you and turned you into the legend of Jack the Ripper." The young Jack's body retreated in disbelief with a look of despair on his face. Joan of Arc raised her hand and looked at Jack. At this moment, an arrow was shot at Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc retreated abruptly, and the light on her hand disappeared. Joan of Arc looked at Atlanta, who was standing on the roof next to her, and said, "What do you want to do?" "Red Archer." Atlanta jumped in front of the children, protected the children, and then pointed her bow at Joan of Arc. "That's what I want to say. What do you want to do? These are all children. Innocent children. These children aren't even evil. They're just sacrificial lambs. They are sad souls crushed by the structure of the world," Atlanta said with a ferocious expression. "If you want to kill them, then I won't let you off." Jean looked at Atlanta and said with a firm and serious expression, "You should also understand that if these children are alive, they will only have more companions." "Shut up. Returning the soul is salvation." "What kind of salvation is that?" Atlanta roared. Then he shot an arrow filled with anger. He didn't know if it was because of anger or Jean's technique, but Jean just tilted her head slightly and avoided the arrow. Then let me ask you. You chose to hold the holy flag on the battlefield instead of drawing your sword. Isn't it because you don't want to kill? Isn't it because you don't want your hands to be stained with blood? Atalanta asked. What do you think, Red Archer? Jean said thoughtfully. Do you think that because I didn't use my sword, I didn't stain my hands with blood? Ever since I decided to participate in that war, my hands have been stained with blood. It was also because of Sodric who helped me share the blood that I was called the Saintess by later generations. If you really think so, you are not the Saintess at all. Atlanta was angry again. Because of this, I never thought of myself as the Saintess. Jean said naturally. What? Atlanta was a little surprised. That's right, Atlanta. Who? Atlanta's arrow pointed to another place. Wuming slowly walked out of the dark street. It's you. Atlanta looked at Wuming nervously. After all, Wuming's combat power was not to be underestimated. The Red Side servants saw the starlight pillar in the sky garden of Semiramis that day. I'm not some general who saved the country. Those titles were just given to us by our descendants. Just like Vlad, he was slandered as a vampire, and now he really is a vampire. Just like Jack, he was turned into the Ripper. This is the tragedy of a heroic spirit, Wu Ming said to Jack. Jean just wanted to end the war, to end this evil. It was only because the Lord said that Jean couldn't stand it anymore that Jean joined the war. And Wu Ming also joined the army because he was worried about Jean. Jean was more and more like a saintess by the Lord's revelation, but Wu Ming was different. Except for saving the country, Wu Ming had been doing things his own way. Sodric had the adventurer skill, which showed how unstable Wu Ming was. Then Jean spoke again. This is the world of their memories, just a fantasy born of residual thoughts. Do you want those children to suffer in this ambiguous world forever, Archer? So, please get out of the way. Jean's eyes were full of light, and Atlanta flinched. She put down the bow in her hand. But I refuse. Atlanta said as if she was holding back. If I refuse them, if I refuse these children, then who can love them again? Your God. Atlanta looked at Jean fiercely. I will never let you kill them, ruler. However, at that moment, one of Jack's avatars, the blonde girl that Wu Ming saw before, slowly walked toward Jean. Is there no other way? Do you really want to kill us? Jean lowered her head, and the bangs in front of her covered her eyes, making people unable to see Jean's eyes. But in Wu Ming's view, Jean must be very uncomfortable. Enough, Jean. Wu Ming walked behind Jean and said, You've done enough. Leave the rest to me. Jean looked at Wu Ming in confusion. It seems that Wu Ming doesn't mean to kill Jack for her. Then what is it? Does Wu Ming really have a way to save these children who have become Jack the Ripper? After that, Wu Ming walked in front of Jean, and turned into the blonde girl looking at Wu Ming. You are the resentful spirits absorbed by the legend of Jack the Ripper. Strictly speaking, you are also Jack the Ripper. In other words, you have your own Valhalla. Then Wu Ming stretched out one of his hands, which exuded a star-like light. The other children began to merge with the blonde girl. After the girl in front of him merged with other children, she changed back to Black Assassin, the white-haired Jack. Wu Ming touched Jack's hair with his hand, closed his eyes slightly, and smiled. I will let you get rid of the legend of Jack the Ripper. Please believe me. After Jack froze for a moment, he looked at the gentle big brother in front of him and nodded heavily. Okay. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.